The daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 601 Corrupt Police and CIA. The Swede successfully bought the auction item, but when he stood up and went to the backstage to handle the follow-up procedures, Ron glanced around the hall out of habit, and found 3 pairs of eyes staring at him. Things are getting more and more interesting. Finch, do you know how many people are staring at this Swede? How many? Are there many besides you? Finch, who was walking on the road, covered the microphone to his mouth and asked with a frown. Not too many, not too few. In addition to me, there are 3 other groups of people. Ron looked at the appearance of the 3 groups one by one, and continued, first, there is the psychiatrist fraudster you are going to protect. He is also in the auction hall now. Then there are 2 middle-aged men wearing windbreakers. They are wearing windbreakers in this temperature. They almost want to write me as a policeman on their faces. They must be worried about the Swede's work and came out to watch him. The last one is a bit strange. I actually saw a black kid sneaking into the auction hall just now. He was following the Swede just now, but now he can't find him. Ron looked around the auction hall, but there was no one. When he saw the black boy with dreadlocks just now, he could only put his doubts in his heart for the time being. This is very strange. If the Swede went to watch the psychiatrist, I could understand that he wanted to kill the psychiatrist, but it turned out that the psychiatrist was watching him. So what does the machine's prediction about Hayden Yuhei mean? Did he predict that Hayden was going to harm the Swede and then he was killed by him? Finch asked in confusion. When he was talking to Ron, he had just walked out of another client's company. This was the 3rd one he had visited today. In addition to the few clients that Reese had found, except for the poor Swedes, they had checked all the other clients of the psychologist and found nothing abnormal. None of these clients even had a criminal record. They had no motive or ability to harm Hayden. At present, the only one who could harm Hayden was the antique shop owner who had a shady relationship with the Los Angeles police. We have too little information now, and it's too arbitrary to draw conclusions. I think we can observe it again. By the way, did I tell you that the black female detective who helped you before is also here? What's her name? Ron was about to leave the auction house when he found another familiar figure walking in. It was the Los Angeles female detective who had worked closely with Finch before. You mean Carter? Why is she there? Reese's voice came from the headset. I thought he had been investigating HR recently. The so-called HR here does not mean the Director of Human Resources, but the abbreviation of the name of a black police organization hidden in the Los Angeles police system. The police in this organization would use their power to collect protection fees from the drug gangs and human traffickers in Los Angeles as the price for not arresting them. Sometimes, if they meet a sponsor who is willing to spend a lot of money, they would even go out in person. Ron had heard of this organization a long time ago, but he had no clues and was too lazy to do anything. When he heard Reese mention the name again, Ron's eyes lit up, double happiness. I thought I would work in vain this time, and at most I would earn some taxes on the money that the scammers defrauded. I didn't expect there was such a hidden surprise waiting for me. Idiot, they must have made a lot of money after lurking in the police station for so many years. They must not have paid taxes properly, right? I think our top priority should be Mr. Hayden's life. As for the other things, they are just incidental. I hope you can understand the key points, Finch reminded helplessly. Okay, of course I know what takes priority, Ron agreed very naturally. Anyway, if this matter is investigated, it will not be solved in a short time. From now on, of course, the life of this film is easier to save, although he does not think that this liar is worth protecting. After leaving the auction house, Ron's target changed from the Swede to Hayden under the command of the Divergents. Although Hayden is an old liar who has been in the underworld for many years, under Ron's superb tracking technology, he was dating his girlfriend without anyone noticing. I didn't know this guy actually believed in love. Guess what I saw? The person he was dating turned out to be one of his own clients. I have definitely seen this face. Finch, I want to know the identity of this girl. Is she the heir of a big family? Or a female president who started from scratch? According to Ron's experience, old liars like Hayden generally don't have real feelings. Feelings are more like a tool for people like them, a tool to get benefits. He thinks that it is more likely that they are gigolos. Let me check. Ann Winston, from Pennsylvania, etc. I made some unexpected discoveries. Did you know? She is also a liar. She was jailed for fraud when she was 15 years old. So far, she has been jailed 8 times. Looking at the information in front of him, Finch could no longer hide his surprise. When Ron told her about this female patient, he initially preconceived that she was the victim. This information overturned his preconceived impression, and he began to be confused. Ron, do you think this is a coincidence? How is it possible? The first sentence I learned in the secret agent school is that all seemingly coincidental things in the world must have a reason. I think the more likely possibility is that this was a premeditated fraud against Hayden, which is in line with the Chinese idiom, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Ron said the idiom twice in Chinese and English. Finch savored the meaning of the idiom. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that this was the case, but he still could not grasp the main context of the matter. Finch felt as if he was getting closer and closer to the truth, but there was a layer of window paper between them that he couldn't break. This feeling made Finch very uncomfortable. So do you think she was planning to murder Hayden? No, I think she was more likely to do it for money. Maybe she had already seen through Hayden's identity as a liar, and like me, she was planning to take the money he cheated. As for human life, I don't think she would be interested. Liars like this are most afraid of getting involved in a murder lawsuit because that would make them wanted nationwide, which is very troublesome. Ron observed Hayden and patiently explained to Finch, if we must stick to the question of who will kill Hayden, I think you may know the answer better than me, because you wrote the algorithm of the machine, and you should know better than me what kind of clues it makes such a judgment based on. No. I don't understand. I'm only responsible for programming. The things about judgment logic are all done by another friend of mine, and he's dead. Finch's voice sounded a little sad. Ron was just about to comfort him, but the couple who were dating over there had a new change. After Hayden stuffed a female scammer into a taxi and waved goodbye, he turned around and walked towards the office building next to him. That was where his clinic was located. It was already late at night, and Ron couldn't figure out why he returned to the office at this time, because as far as he knew, Hayden was not without a place to live. This very abnormal behavior caught Ron's attention. Hey, the latest situation, he just sent his girlfriend away and returned to the office. What do you think he will do now that he returns? Ron reported to Finch with interest. Finch thought for a moment, but didn't have any answer. I don't know either. Maybe he needs to sort out the information. As soon as he said this, he smiled and said, but it shouldn't be possible. Anyway, it's a scam. There's no need to be so careful. No, Ron, go upstairs quickly. Someone just sent a message to trick him up there. Someone wants to kill him there. Finch can see all the information on Hayden's phone through the program that hacked into her phone. Just now, she accidentally saw a new message on Hayden's phone. The phone showed that it was sent by a Swede, and the wording was urgent. He hoped that he could quickly give a solution to mental illness. But when Finch clicked on the number of the message, he found that the number did not match the number actually used by the Swede. In other words, someone deliberately disguised his number to send messages to Hayden, with the purpose of tricking him back to his office. As for what to do after tricking him back to the office, Ron could figure it out even with his toes without Finch's reminder. FXXK. Are these damn bastards finally taking action? Well, it's a good opportunity for me to see who they really are, Ron said murderously, pressed the elevator button, and took the elevator to the office at a high speed. On the other side, Hayden, who had returned to the office, was impatiently holding the Swede's psychological report and began to copy the treatment plan based on the patients with the same symptoms on the internet. He was just a liar. It was good enough to learn the conversation skills of the psychologist. As for the real treatment, forget it. He couldn't even tell the effects of several common psychiatric drugs. If he really had that ability, why would he be a liar? However, just as he had typed a few words, 2 shadows suddenly fell outside the office window. Hayden had a bad feeling. He had just time to lie down and hide under the desk, and 2 submachine guns began to fire wildly at the office. The files and paper scraps on the office desk flew all over, and various office supplies were smashed to pieces. The 2 shadows turned out to be 2 people. They were assassins who came to kill him. But fortunately, Hayden reacted in time and hid under the table in time, escaping. Unfortunately, this escape was only temporary. The 2 assassins shooting failed to achieve any results, but they jumped in through the broken glass. Hayden, with the help of the reflection of the broken glass on the ground, saw clearly that the person came from the roof with a rope. But what's the use of knowing this? He didn't have any weapons in his hands, but the two assassins were holding submachine guns. Hayden leaned against the sofa table leg tightly and began to pray. At this time, the only one who could save him was probably God, right? Damn it, I haven't gotten Ann Winston yet, and I still have so much money to spend. I can't bear it. Please, God, please save me. As if God really heard his prayer, 2 gunshots suddenly came from outside. This sound was different from the da-da sound of the submachine gun just now. Even someone like Hayden who rarely touched a gun could tell that these were the sounds of 2 weapons. Did God really come to save me? Hayden murmured, and then he was overjoyed. However, before he could stick his head out, a strong hand stretched out from under the table. I'm sorry, it's not God, but me. How long do you plan to stay under the table, Mr. Hayden? Who are you? Hayden crawled out from under the table and looked at the strong man in front of him in a daze. From a physique point of view, he was much stronger than the 2 corpses on the ground. In addition, the other party's posture of just getting rid of 2 killers made Hayden believe that this person was more difficult to deal with than the 2 killers. I am here to save you. You can interpret me as God, Allah, or the messenger of Buddha according to your own beliefs. Although you are not worthy of being saved, if the myths are true, people like you must go to hell. In order to prevent Hayden from running around, Ron took out a pair of handcuffs and handcuffed him, and then began to search the body on the ground. This search actually allowed him to find something. CIA ID? Well, I never thought that the CIA has fallen to the point of sending people out to do dirty work and carrying ID with them. Or do these idiots think they are absolutely foolproof, so they don't bother to hide their identities? What do you think, Mr. Hayden? Ron's sharp eyes returned to Hayden, frightening him and making him tremble all over. I really don't know. Or are you pretending to be confused? Ron suddenly grabbed Hayden's hair without warning and pressed it on the table. He wiped all the monitors and other debris on the table to the ground like a rag. A person who is targeted by the CIA actually said that he knows nothing. Are you looking down on my methods? Or are you insulting my IQ? It hurts. It hurts. It hurts, Hayden, who was pressed on the table, screamed like a pig being slaughtered. I really don't know anything. I haven't even had contact with the CIA. I swear, I'm just an ordinary psychologist. Are you really just a psychiatrist? Mr. Hayden, the CEO of the American Cancer Relief Foundation? I wonder, which one is the real you? Or are you a liar who uses the identity of a psychiatrist to steal other people's secrets and make a profit from it? Ron laughed. This liar's psychological quality is really good. Even at this time, he did not forget to emphasize his fake identity as a psychiatrist. Chapter 602 The Truth. Who are you? Hayden, who was thrown on the sofa, shrank back in fear and said. Half an hour ago, he was picked up by Ron and thrown into this long-abandoned library. He had been a liar for so long, but he had never experienced such a thing as today, as if he was stripped naked and had no privacy at all. Someone just turned my office upside down. My girlfriend is still waiting for me. If she goes to my house or my office, she will be in danger. I have to go find her. Pay attention, sir. I'm asking you the question now, not you. If you are dissatisfied with this method, you can talk to it. Ron slammed the pistol on the table. Hayden immediately shut up very tactfully. Ron nodded with satisfaction and continued to ask, I just called the Los Angeles Police Department. Detective Carter actually knew the 2 CIA agents and regarded them as colleagues in his police station. The CIA, the Los Angeles Police Department, the antique dealer, and a liar. This story is getting more and more interesting, so do you want to explain something to me? I really don't know anything. Hayden looked like he was about to cry. The only person I know here is the Swede. I know he is a very wealthy antique dealer. I know he is helping some policemen launder money. He couldn't sleep all night because of this. If you don't believe me, you can check my customer records. He said all these himself. Who are you? Are you the police? You can't just arrest me like this. Your procedure is illegal. I'm going to file a complaint against you. Because of fear, Hayden blurted out everything he knew. He still hasn't figured out who Ron is. He's not even afraid of the notorious CIA. He was almost scared to death when he heard that the CIA was involved. If the police station or the FBI would reason with you when arresting someone, then the CIA is simply unreasonable. As long as the CIA wants to arrest someone, they don't need to talk about any evidence. It's enough to put a suspicion of treason on it. It's also because of this that the CIA is the second most reluctant existence among these people who are doing illegal things. The first one is Ron lifted the hem of his suit, revealing a corner of the ID in his pocket. Hayden was waiting for the ID. All of a sudden, all the words he had just prepared were blocked back in his mouth. I think you should know who I am now, right? Now I ask questions and you answer them. If I am not satisfied with anything, you know what I will do? We looked at Hayden's reaction, nodded with satisfaction, and then continued to ask, have you heard of HR? I have heard of it. The Swede told me that it is a police organization that he helped to launder money. This time Hayden's answer was much more honest. So your original idea was to cheat HR of the money that the Swede put in? I have to say that you are still a very courageous liar. Ordinary liars don't have the courage to do this, but why did the CIA become a police officer in the police station? And even eliminate your killer candidate? This Hayden just opened his mouth and immediately closed his mouth, looking like he wanted to say something but stopped. Seeing this, Ron didn't bother to be polite with him. He directly grabbed the pistol, pressed one of Hayden's hands on the table, and hit his fingers hard with the handle of the gun. Ah! Hayden let out a scream. Finch outside the room couldn't bear it and closed his eyes. He wanted to go in and persuade Ron not to use such means, but he remembered his previous promise not to interfere, so he stopped and listened quietly outside. Wrong answer. This is not the answer I want. You still have 9 chances to make mistakes. Do you want to keep trying? Ron raised the handle of the gun, ready to hit again. Hayden struggled and shouted, no. Please don't do this. I promise to tell you everything. That's good. Uncle Ron likes obedient children the most. Barn released his hand on his arm and touched his hair. Relax, it's not difficult to say all this. Even if you are afraid that the CFA will cause trouble for you, as long as you run to another powerful country, they can't do anything to you, such as Russia. If you pay the taxes quickly, I can even give you another plane ticket. No, do you feel a desire to talk stuck in your chest? Want to vent it out? Well, I'll tell you. Actually, I don't know much. Hayden decided to believe Ron after thinking about the countermeasures and suggestions Ron had just made to him. After all, compared to the CIA, the reputation of IRS is much better. I only know that the part of the black money that the Swedes are responsible for writing seems to be the drug revenue in Los Angeles, and this part of the drug revenue has always been handled by the gangs arranged by the CIA. The CIA set up rules and told everyone how much money each person can get, but they were afraid that they would not follow the rules, so they arranged some people to enter the police station. Really, I swear to you, this is all I know. Ron nodded to show that he knew something, and walked out of the room without saying anything. Finch and Reese outside the door had already heard their conversation. Everything is clear. This idiot has set his eyes on HR's small treasury and intends to fight for his life. I think he deserves to die. And his girlfriend, who is also a liar, how do you think we should deal with them? By the way, I haven't told him the identity of his girlfriend. Ron threw the question back to Finch. I just asked Reese to take his girlfriend back to the hotel to stay first. No matter what her plan is, at least this way he can save his life. I want them to meet first. What do you think? I don't care. You are the boss here. I just want to make sure I can make money. I even want to thank you for this job invitation. It's really great. Ron took out a check from his pocket and kissed it. It was a check that Finch had just signed for him. In addition to this money, the remuneration for this job, the taxes of the scammers and the HR or CIA's treasury are the real big part. This job allows him to earn 3 incomes. How can he not thank Finch? Finch arranged for Reese to take Hayden to meet his girlfriend. He continued to organize the information about Hayden on the computer. Ron was bored and started to play with a dog and play the game of throwing and catching. Little Bear is a very smart German shepherd. This kind of game is child's play for him. However, before Ron played 2 rounds, Finch at the computer desk suddenly screamed. Little Bear immediately dropped the toy in his mouth and ran to Finch to check. After finding that there was no problem, he looked up at Finch in confusion. Well, although I don't want to ask, seeing your look, I still have to ask, what's wrong? There's a problem. Hayden doesn't seem to have told us the whole scam. When I was checking Hayden's hard drive just now, I found that he actually had the email account password of the Swede. It was the antique dealer. Do you know what this means? He really knows hypnosis and got his account password from the Swede? But what's the use of this? Can it use this account password to transfer his money out? Ron asked in confusion. No, he did something more outrageous. Finch closed his computer and stood up. His expression turned serious. He deleted the email that HR originally sent to him, and then rewrote an email and sent it to his mailbox with an anonymous address. The email said that there was an auction today and the Swede was required to bid for lot 424, but in the email he modified, he was asked by Hayden to bid for lot 423. Now I know why HR asked someone to kill him, because HR suspected that he had embezzled their money, but in fact it was Hayden who did it. This guy is really a genius, Ron couldn't help but admire, but immediately, he thought of another question, and asked with a strange look on his face, Finch, don't you think that compared to the life of this suicidal liar, the life of that poor Swede is more worthy of protection? I believe that the killers from HR or the CIA are on their way to kill him now. That place is not far from Sam's apartment. I'll call Sam and ask him to come over now. Finch hurriedly picked up the phone. The fundamental reason why he did this rescue work was that he didn't want innocent people to die, but now, this action is killing that person. Ron curled his lips quietly. He could never understand Finch's saintly heart. In his opinion, whether it was the movie or the antique dealer, they were purely asking for trouble and there was no value in saving them. By the time Finch hung up the phone, Ron had already sorted out the whole context of the matter. Finch, do you think Hayden really loves his girlfriend? What do you mean? Finch was puzzled. What I mean is, why did he still ask to see his girlfriend immediately, even after you assured him of her safety? Was it because of love? Or did he have something else to do? Something else? What do you mean? Escape? But even if you were running away, it doesn't seem like a burden to take your girlfriend with you, right? No, that's not what I meant. Do you remember I told you that there were 3 groups of people staring at the Swede at the auction? Hayden himself, the police, and another person whose identity we haven't confirmed but who we suspect was arranged by the killer who wanted to kill Hayden. Ron held up his chin and said as he thought, but what if he arranged this person himself? I understand that he arranged it himself. He deliberately modified the email to make the Swedes think that he was going to bid for another collection, because the auction items they usually use for this kind of dirty money laundering transactions are all fakes or forgeries, so the Swedes will treat these things as garbage, such as selling them at a very low price in the store, but in fact this time is different. This time he auctioned a real commemorative baseball worth $4 million. Then he arranged for someone to buy the baseball back and find the auction house to sell it again. It is equivalent to having $4 million cash in hand. This idea is really genius. Finch, a programmer who can develop an artificial intelligence program with self-awareness like a machine, is certainly not a fool. He just has no experience in this area. But if all the clues are sorted out and placed in front of him, he can immediately deduce the correct answer. Yes, that's it. I think we should do something. We can't let that liar fool us. Damn it, if I had known, I would have broken a few more of his fingers just now, Ron said with some annoyance. This time, he also failed. However, just when Finch was about to say something, his cell phone suddenly rang. Finch looked down and saw a text message from Reese. His expression suddenly became strange. I think you are right, but it seems a little late. Just 5 minutes ago, Hayden took advantage of the time when he was talking to his girlfriend to push Reese out of the room, and then took the opportunity to jump out of the window and escape. We have completely lost track of him now, damn it. We must find him quickly, Ron cursed inwardly. Finch looked a little stunned. Really? Are you going to find him now? I thought you would go find the baseball first. Of course I have to find the baseball. It's a full $4 million, Ron said as a matter of course, which made Finch even more puzzled. Then why did you still go looking for Hayden? Finch nodded, and Ron spread his hands. Come on, he went through so much trouble to get a car like this. Is it just for one person to escape in a hurry? Why shouldn't he take the baseball with him before leaving? At the same time, when Salmon rushed to the antique shop, someone in the store had already got there before her. The Swede was tied up with his hands and kneeling on the ground. Through the window of the antique shop, she vaguely saw 2 people standing opposite. Salmon carefully took out the pistol and slammed it against the glass. Drop your weapons and put your hands up. Come on, Carter. Why are you here? Seeing that it was Carter and her other colleague who kidnapped the Swede, Salmon breathed a sigh of relief and put the pistol back into the holster. We found out that this person has been helping HR sell stolen goods, so we came to see if he has any evidence. What about you? I'm here to protect him. By the way, if you plan to find evidence of selling stolen goods, you don't have to bother. "This idiot has been fooled," Salmon said with pity to the Swede who was kneeling on the ground. The Swede struggled with the rope angrily, but failed. He said angrily, "I'm not an idiot. Let me go, let's try. I promise to blow your head off." "Really? I doubt it. How can a person who doesn't even know that his email account password has been stolen have such ability?" Simon approached the Swede and mocked him mercilessly. The Swede's expression became a little stunned. "What do you mean?" Chapter 603 Childhood Friends. Just as Salmon met up with Detective Carter and began to help the Swede fake the scene to create proof of his fake death, on the other side of the city, the liar Hayden was walking swaggering on the streets of the slums. When he passed a black guy, the guy immediately noticed his gaze and immediately gave him a flattering smile. Hayden walked up to him, said nothing, took out a $10 bill, and stretched it in front of the black guy. The black guy quickly snatched the money and left a tattered baseball in his hand. Hayden still said nothing, put the baseball in his pocket and walked away quickly. The whole process, including the initial eye contact, to the end, took no more than 30 seconds. The homeless people on the street were still singing and dancing to hip-hop music, and no one knew that a business worth $4 million had just been completed here. "Do you think this is okay?" Simon smeared ketchup on the Swede's face a few times, took his hand and posed. Carter held the phone and looked at the photo he had just taken for a long time, then shook his head in disappointment. "I don't think it will work. It looks too unnatural. We need to create a feeling that he died immediately after being shot. Only in this way, he will not be hunted down by HR and the CIA." "Well," Sam helplessly picked up the Swede from the ground again, "how about this? I'll throw the ball at you now, and after I throw you, you just fall down immediately when you feel the pain. Don't do any unnecessary movements, okay?" The Swede rubbed his arm that was kowtowing on the ground. "Can we not be so troublesome?" In order to take a photo of fake death and send it to their undercover in HR to fool the top management of HR, the Swede had been pinned to the ground and fell more than a dozen times. His bones were almost broken, but the two girls in front of him were still not satisfied and asked him to continue filming. To be honest, if these two girls didn't have guns in their hands and there was a very powerful and ruthless guy behind them who had already gotten rid of the killer for him once, he would have found a way to slip away by now. "No, Ron said that this photo must be taken to perfection, without any flaws, otherwise they will never let you go." But the Swede was about to refute when the sound of footsteps came closer and closer, and Ron walked in again. "There is no but. You have to know who you are provoking. They are not the Los Angeles police as you initially thought. They are all CIA undercovers and police identities. Do you know what will happen if you mess with the CIA? You can't stay in the entire Americas and Europe. Only by going to the tribes in the African rainforests, or the crowded third world countries like India, can you hide your identity and continue to live. How can CIA be the CIA? They are obviously my colleagues." "Is there something wrong here?" Carter murmured in disbelief. Ron glanced at him, took out a small ball of paper from his pocket and threw it at Carter's feet. "At first, I didn't believe that the Los Angeles Police Department could be infiltrated by the CIA to this extent, but I believe that no one can lie to their own teeth. I pulled out one of their teeth without asking them the question just now, and they didn't change their words until all their teeth were pulled out. If they can still use their strong will to continue lying to me in this situation, then I admire them for being real men." Carter's hand trembled as he opened the ball of paper, and he threw the ball of paper on the ground again. Several small white things inside fell all over the ground. In the moonlight, Simone recognized that these things should be human teeth. Unlike Carter, she was not scared when she saw these. Instead, she excitedly took out a notebook from her pocket and wrote down Ron's trick. "I understand. So tooth extraction is so effective? I must write it down. Write it down. Remember, the secret is not to give them anesthesia, and give them a sip of vodka every time a tooth is pulled out. The burns of the alcohol will continue to stimulate their fragile nerves." Carter looked at the living Satan number 1 and number 2 who were teaching his sons, and couldn't help but interrupt their good teaching atmosphere. "What should we do now? Are we just going to let the CIA continue to infiltrate our Los Angeles Police Department? In this case, what's the difference between us and a puppet manipulated by the CIA? They don't care how many homicides have occurred here, nor do they care how many families have been destroyed by drugs. They only care about how to make more money. This is not what the police should do at all. I agree with you, but I have to say that even I can't do anything about them now." Ron spread his hands and said indifferently, They all joined the CIA first, then applied for the Los Angeles Police Academy as individuals, and became police officers through the exam. Moreover, they didn't know each other beforehand and were only activated when needed, so we can't follow the clues and catch them all. What's more troublesome is that the confession I just forced out, and the emails in this guy's computer, are all evidence that is not recognized by the court. It's simply wishful thinking to want to get rid of them by this means, so my suggestion is that we might as well write down this account first, and then continue to collect more evidence until the evidence can completely convict them. But before that, there is one very important little thing to do, and that is to make a big fortune from him. Hearing the word making money, Sam's eyes immediately lit up. Under Rod's influence, she also began to be interested in the sport of making money. Are you talking about the $4 million baseball? But didn't the boss just say that it was bought by a black guy? Yes, the baseball has really been sold. I thought it was just like the garbage before, worthless. The guy who bought the baseball seems to be from the slums in the city center. I have never seen him, so I am afraid I can't help you find the kid, the Swede quickly added. Who said I was going to find the kid? Ron suddenly showed a strange smile on his face. I know, Hayden must have met up with the kid and taken the baseball. We should go find Hayden now, right? Sam raised his hand and answered. Ron still shook his head. I just figured out one thing when I was outside. When Reese pretended to be a patient to contact Hayden, his phone had been hacked into. At that time, we all thought it was done by someone who was going to kill him. Now we know that the person who was going to kill him was the CIA. After that, we all understand one thing. If the CIA wants to kill someone, there is no need to go through so much trouble. So the question is, who is the person who hacked into his phone? Are you talking about? Carter seemed to have thought of something and opened his mouth in disbelief. Ron nodded at her in appreciation. Yes, I'm talking about his girlfriend, who is also a liar. So far, 3 of the 4 parties in this game have appeared, us, Hayden, and the CIA, but she, who is also a liar, has not made any move so far. This is totally unreasonable. You know, in terms of experience in fraud, he has more experience than Hayden. The only explanation is that she has already made a move, but we didn't find or ignored her action. Ron's eyes burst into a gleam. Because of her weak female appearance, Hayden's girlfriend has always been ignored by them. Ron even began to suspect that she was the mastermind behind everything. She used hypnosis to give Hayden a hint to make a lot of money, and helped him choose the target through casual chats. So you mean that we don't need to care about Hayden or others now, and we can find the $4 million baseball by following his girlfriend? Sam's eyes turned into the shape of US dollars. Of course, this is the best way at the moment, isn't it? Ron smiled. Of course, Hayden can't be completely ignored, but I believe that Reese alone is enough to protect him. After a night of hard work, the sky gradually brightened. On the same small street in the old city of Los Angeles, next to the same black boy with dreadlocks, a brown-haired woman was passing by him and suddenly stopped. After looking around and seeing that there was no one around, she quickly took out a $100 bill from her pocket and put it into the black boy's paper box. Then a magical scene appeared. The black boy took out a worn-out baseball that was exactly the same as the one he gave to Hayden and stuffed it into the woman's hand. The woman took a look at the baseball in her hand and showed a satisfied smile on her face. Just as she was about to put the baseball into her handbag, her wrist was grabbed by a strong big hand. Thank you, Mom. If it weren't for you, I don't know when I could find this treasure. Thank you. I elegantly snatched the baseball from the woman's hand. The woman struggled a few times, trying to get the baseball back, but to no avail. Are you kidding? This is Ron. That's mine. I bought it from this kid for $100. You can't take it away, really? You actually spent $100. Yesterday, a miser only spent $10 here and bought one exactly like yours. You must have been cheated by this kid. Ron turned his head to look at the black kid and scolded him. I didn't expect you to be a profiteer at such a young age. The black kid wanted to cry but had no tears. What could he say? He couldn't say that he was tied to a remote-controlled bomb. An electronic watch was tied to 2 large batteries, which shows how important reading is. Whether he lived or died depended on the mood of this handsome uncle, right? That's also my thing. I was willing to pay a high price for it. Give it back to me. The woman struggled even harder, and was even ready to bite Ron's arm, but just as she opened her mouth, a cold tube was stuffed into her mouth. When she looked down, she found it was a revolver. How about I use this to buy you this baseball? Ron showed the yellow bullet in front of the woman. Although its single shot price is only $0.7 US. Please believe that my marksmanship is definitely worth this price. No, don't do that. It's yours now. Almost in an instant, the woman made a choice between her life and the baseball worth $4 million. Ron nodded with satisfaction and threw the baseball to the corner. Another beautiful woman caught it. It's yours now. Take it to the auction house to exchange for money. Keep $400,000 for yourself and transfer the rest to this card. I'm leaving first. Ron threw a bank card to Sam, let go of Hayden's girlfriend, and walked back to the car alone. It's not that he doesn't want to take care of the CIA's affairs, but he doesn't have enough evidence at the moment. At this point, it seems to be a good choice to throw the matter to Detective Carter, who seems to care very much. Besides, Ron has more important things to do today. Today is the day when Dan brings his son to visit Caltech. Although he is Sheldon's classmate, Ron has a good relationship with him. After all, Dan used to do homework for Ron. It's not that Ron doesn't know how to do it, but it saves time and gives him more time to pick up girls and train. Of course, Ron has introduced several girlfriends to Dan in return. Not this. In the small square of Caltech, Leonard's trio is trying to distinguish Dan from the crowd, but before Dan is found, they find Ron first. Howard was surprised and said, "Ron, why are you here?" From the sound of Raj muttering in front of me just now, I can judge that my purpose is the same as yours. I am also looking for Dan. I say, no way, guys, are you still entangled in why Sheldon and Dan broke up? Ron looked at the three scientists in front of him who were at a loss, and said with some amusement, "We are just here for fun. If Leonard is curious, we think it is a sign of jealousy," Raj said gloatingly. Leonard's face turned red due to the pressure from the two. "No, I am not. I am just curious about what happened between them. As Sheldon's good friend, I think I have reason to help him clear up the misunderstanding. Actually, I am also curious about this question, but we should know the answer soon." Ron found a familiar Asian figure in the crowd and waved to her enthusiastically. "Dan, here, I'm Ron. Do you remember me? Sheldon's brother." "Of course I remember. It's all thanks to you that I can marry Wendy. It's just that we invited you to our wedding, but you didn't come. I thought you had some opinion about me." Dan smiled and hugged Ron. "Did you invite me to your wedding? Why didn't I receive your invitation?" Ron was about to continue asking, but he saw his awkward brother in the crowd and immediately understood what was going on. "Okay, I roughly understand what happened. The invitation you gave me must have been deliberately thrown away by a bad guy, so I missed your wedding. But I think he will definitely apologize to you in person, right?" Sheldon. Chapter 604, Film and TV Project and the Situation That Takes a Turn for the Worst. A sneaky tall man jumped out from the crowd. Who else could it be but Sheldon? As soon as Dan stepped into the Caltech campus, Sheldon followed him stealthily, like a stalker. "When did you find me? My stealth skills are as good as yours. Did you put a tracker on me again?" Sheldon pulled off the hat on his head and said unconvincedly. "Sheldon, you are not playing games, learning the appearance of the characters in the game. Walking is called stealth. There is no such skill in reality, and even if there is, you can't do it. Isn't this assassin's outfit made of my leather jacket?" Ron looked up and down. Sheldon was wearing the same outfit as in Assassin's Creed. The more he looked at it, the more he felt that the leather parts on it were very similar to his jacket, and he couldn't help but say doubtfully, "Of course, otherwise where else can I find this kind of material with the same texture as in the game?" Before Sheldon finished complaining, Dan had already opened his arms to him happily. "Long time no see." Sheldon had just stretched out his hand halfway, and suddenly froze, and retracted it, holding his hands in front of his chest. "It's not long enough for the scars of my betrayal by you to heal." "How did I betray you?" Dan looked puzzled. "Do you know what you did?" Sheldon looked angry. Dan was still puzzled, and there was no way. Ron could only pat Sheldon on the shoulder. "I don't think you should know. After all, not everyone can keep up with your weird brain circuits. Otherwise you should understand a little bit and tell him." "Tell me. What did you do after I moved to California? I continued to stay in Texas. What's wrong?" "Listen. Can you believe it?" Sheldon excitedly pointed at Dan and said to Leonard and others behind him, "He actually abandoned me." "Okay, so I can understand that you are angry that he didn't come to Los Angeles with you." Ron seemed to understand a little bit of Sheldon's anger. "What else could it be? When I was accepted by Caltech, I was afraid of moving so far away from home, so Dan said he would move in with me, but he found a girlfriend during the summer vacation and stayed in Texas. Isn't this a betrayal? Sheldon angrily accused Dan of his fault. Ron looked a little embarrassed. He was indeed a little involved in this, because it was he who introduced Dan's girlfriend. Dan was about to explain, but Ron took the lead and stopped him. Have you ever thought about it? It was because he didn't accompany you that you had the opportunity to meet Leonard, Howard, Raj, and other very good friends. Think about it, if Dan had come to Los Angeles with you, how different would your life be from now? No, it would be the same as it is now. Sheldon tilted his head and imagined it, and found that except that Penny might change her husband, everything else basically remained unchanged. Seriously speaking, Dan's personality is actually quite similar to Leonard's. They are both good guys, have the same nerdy self-esteem, and have the same enthusiastic communication skills among geeks. If Dan came to Los Angeles with Sheldon, he would at most replace Leonard's position. Dan would become good friends with Howard Lage. Seeing his new neighbor, he would drool over mud and stone, imagining what they would look like together. Dan also thought of this, and looked at Leonard with pity along with Ron. They were confused by their gazes wherever they went. Why are you looking at me? Nothing. I just think you look more handsome today than usual, especially this bow tie suits you very well. Ron patted Leonard's shoulder perfunctorily, and then turned to Sheldon. But you have to admit that it was because Dan didn't come with you that you had the opportunity to make these new friends, and he didn't do anything wrong, he was just pursuing his own happiness. Now that you have Amy, you should understand that feeling very well, right? Okay, I understand that feeling, I forgive you. Sheldon extended his hand to Dan. That's right. I think we should have a good chat. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Why don't we? Ron was about to go out with Sheldon and Dan in his arms. When he received a new message on his phone, he could only swallow the 5 words "I'll treat you to dinner" back into his mouth. Why don't I treat you to dinner another day? Sorry, I have something to go out for. The message was sent by Thor. He found a film and television company on the verge of bankruptcy for Ron. The purchase price was only $3 million, which was exactly the income Ron earned from this part-time job. The company's former boss made an appointment with him at 2 p.m. It takes more than an hour to drive from here to the meeting place, so he had to leave immediately. Good afternoon, Mr. James, you have a film and television company that you plan to sell, right? In the cafe, Ron extended his hand to the boss of the film and television company. Yes, I am the boss of Dislo Company. My company mainly focuses on TV series and amusement park projects, but unfortunately both sides have lost money. However, if you are interested in buying it, it will be yours. James smiled bitterly and shook hands with Ron. TV series and theme parks? So your business idea is to imitate the Disney model? Family-friendly TV series plus theme parks. This is a good idea, but unfortunately not everyone can do it. Who said it's not? I almost went bankrupt before I understood this truth. Mr. James's smile became more self-deprecating, but I corrected a small mistake of yours. My main products are not family-friendly TV series and theme parks, but adult content. Puff. Sorry, it's okay. Ron just drank the coffee in his mouth, and because he was too surprised, he sprayed it out all of a sudden, spraying Mr. James's life. He quickly got up to find a tissue for Mr. James, but James took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped it. Saul, you idiot. Ron couldn't help but curse in his heart. The purpose of buying a film and television company was to produce a light comedy based on the story of Caroline Max. If this project makes money, it's okay. By the way, he can develop some other film and television projects to make some pocket money. But a film and television company that mainly produces adult TV series, what should Ron do? You can't make two broke girls into an adult version, right? Although from the way Ron and Caroline Max get along, this is definitely a restricted adult TV series, but this is not what Ron wants to shoot. Although what we shot before is an adult TV series, I assure you that my company is definitely capable of producing serious TV series. In fact, I hired 2 very powerful special effects artists to shoot an adult version of Marvel movies. You will definitely not suffer any loss if you buy my company. If you are willing, I can give you another $200,000 cheaper if you sign the contract now. Perhaps because he was too eager to use the money, James hurriedly explained to Ron. However, Ron did not rush to reply, but sipped his coffee and flipped through the contract carelessly. When James' patience was almost exhausted, he put down the cup and said, I want you to pack the unfinished amusement park project for me at a discount of $500,000. Otherwise, there is no need to talk. This time, James became entangled. Although the amusement park project was initially under the name of the company, it was his trump card for future success, so when selling the company, he specially separated it out. James clenched and unclenched his fists, repeatedly doing so. Ron could see his inner struggle, but he didn't urge him at all. Now was a buyer's market. There were more than one or two people in Los Angeles waiting to sell their companies. He could wait for the next one. James clenched his fists again, and he finally made a decision. Okay, I'll give it to you, all of it. James slapped the table, but I want some of the money to be paid in cash in multiple installments. After saying that, James lay down on the chair helplessly, like a salted fish who had lost his dream. Handing the amusement park project to Ron was equivalent to completely losing all his trump cards. Now he could only take the money and be an ordinary rich man. As for using the money to rebuild such a project, although it was not impossible, he, who was already in his 50s, no longer had such abundant energy. Not to mention that the progress of the amusement park project was not just buying a piece of land to build an amusement park. The scenes set up for the plot of the TV series had already begun construction. Although it was still a long way from being able to open for business, it was definitely not something that could be done quickly with just $2.5 million. It's a pleasure to work with you, Ron said with a smug smile. He signed his name on the contract and handed it to James. By the way, what does your adult theme park look like? And what's the name of your TV series? Is it Spartacus that's being shown recently? To be honest, that show is well made, and I still remember some of the scenes in it very clearly. No, our company is producing another one called Westworld. I plan to build a park in the style of a western town, so that people can experience all the stories of the pioneering era here, such as robbing a train on horseback, being a sheriff, maintaining the law and order of the town, and even having a relationship with a girl in the town. All the service staff will be replaced by bionic robots, just to take advantage of the loophole and avoid some legal issues. Ron's hands trembled and he almost spilled his coffee. Westworld? Isn't that the story of a bionic robot rebelling? Although in Ron's previous life, not to mention bionic robots with independent thinking ability like real people, even bipedal robots that can walk without falling are rare objects, and robots like those in Westworld are simply impossible to achieve. But in this world that he traveled through, Ron couldn't guarantee it. Not to mention how sci-fi the mercenary who was almost transformed into a cyborg that he met with Hobbs before was. He had met the Terminator from the future world twice. And the prototype of the suspected Terminator, the terrifying machine invented by Finch, still uses special information interference methods to hide itself in the world, in some corner, silently spying on the whole world. I think this project is a bit too bloody and violent. If the identity of the tourists is set as a righteous partner who helps the sheriff maintain order in the town, and this amusement park becomes a paradise for gun enthusiasts, and those bloody and violent elements are deleted to attract children, it may have a good development. Maybe. Abandoning his own company, James signed without interest and handed one of the signed contracts back to Ron. The two shook hands politely. Now this contract can be officially effective as long as it is notarized by Thor, and then Ron only needs to transfer the money to the designated account. Ron was about to pick up the contract and leave when a violent noise suddenly broke out outside the cafe. Ron turned his head and looked out the window. A group of people waving flags and jumping like clowns were crossing the street. These people were mainly white, with a small number of blacks and Asians mixed in. They were almost all ages from teenagers to the elderly. They walked on the street with various guns and cold weapons, but this team was very strange in that there were not many women. Who are these people? Ron asked with a frown. James glanced at them and said casually, they are all supporters of Congressman Warren. Don't you know? They are the madmen who proposed the Day of Redemption plan. As he was talking, a marcher holding a sign with Warren's head passed by the cafe. Ron took a look at the photo on the sign and felt a sense of familiarity. He immediately recalled the other party's identity. He was one of the competitors in this presidential election. Thinking of this, Ron frowned even more deeply, because today was the day when the election results were officially announced, and these people were parading in the streets in a swaggering manner. There was only one possibility, that is, the Warren they supported was elected. That's terrible, so they really elected a lunatic to power, right? I hope that those so-called redemption day plans he mentioned before were just slogans for him to attract the mobs to vote for her. If he intends to fulfill his promise, then, what will happen then? Can it be worse than this depressed economy? No, what I want to say is that if his redemption day plan is implemented, Then installing a home security system may be a good choice, Mr. James Sandon. Ron took James' business card and called out his full name meaningfully. Think about it, not everyone wants to go out and kill people to vent their emotions on the redemption day, but I'm sure that no one wants to be killed, let alone their families. This is a business opportunity. Chapter 605 Human Purge Plan. Ron, you're finally back. How is your TV show project going? Seeing Ron walk into the restaurant, Caroline greeted him happily. As long as the film and television project could succeed, she would no longer have to work as a waitress in this dirty restaurant. Although she had completely adapted to the life in the slums during her time here and became friends with everyone in the restaurant, if she had a choice, she would still want to leave here. Not only her, but also Max and everyone else in the restaurant shared the same idea. No one wanted to stay poor forever. Of course, everything is settled. I bought a film and television company. If you want, you can even play your own role in the show. Max, what do you think? Ron looked at Max, who had just walked out from behind the counter. She had just changed out of the restaurant uniform and put on a black dress that made her skin look even whiter. Of course, the already prominent parts were even more prominent because it was a low-cut dress. I don't care. Anyway, for me, it's just a change of place to play the role of a waitress. I've been playing this role all my life, and I can play it very well, Max shrugged and said. But this time, your audience will no longer be the hippies hanging out in midnight restaurants, but tens of millions of TV drama viewers. Oh my God, we're going to be stars. Caroline excitedly hugged Max and jumped and danced an eye-catching dance. Ron had to pour a basin of cold water on her in advance. No, I can't guarantee whether you two will be invited to star in this, because TV dramas have to make money after all. Although the characters are based on you, you don't have much acting experience, so I prefer to invite actors who are similar to you to play your roles. For example, I think the role of Caroline can be given to Anne Hathaway. Anne Hathaway. No, I don't want that annoying guy to play my role, Caroline shouted angrily, but Max clapped his hands and cheered. Haha, I absolutely support Anne Hathaway to play Caroline. They are just as annoying. Anne Hathaway may be an extremely high-quality actress in the eyes of Chinese people, with no scandals and always beautiful and elegant, but in the eyes of Americans, she is one of the most hated female stars, because most Americans think she is too pretentious, or in Chinese terms, out of touch with reality. But one thing is certain, her feeling of being out of tune with the American atmosphere is exactly the same as Caroline, a former rich girl, feeling out of tune in the slums. We can discuss the actors later. I can let you participate in the casting process, but I didn't come to you today to talk about this. Ron made a gesture of invitation to the two women to get in the car and then sat in the driver's seat. Caroline's face suddenly became red and looked particularly attractive. I know, you want what we promised you before, right? The superhero costume show. I'm ready. It's not that. We can talk about this later. Ron glanced at the independent and shy Caroline and the eager Max. What I want to tell you about is the moving plan. I have found a new place for you to live and have moved your luggage there. In order to avoid having any of your favorite things being thrown away by me, I even moved the garbage in your house here. Oh, Ron, you are so thoughtful, but we really don't need to move to a new place. The place we live now is pretty good. There is water and electricity. And there is also a yard that can accommodate Subeo. It's not that we are reluctant to spend money to live in a better house. It's mainly because we like the atmosphere of that area. Not only is it next to Sophie, but also, Caroline explained with a wondering look in her eyes. Max rolled his eyes behind her. Ron interrupted Caroline's nonsense without any hesitation. Max has already told me that you invested your money in stocks and lost it again, right? Seriously, don't believe the financial knowledge you learned at Wharton Business School before. It's useless. Caroline widened her eyes in anger. The degree from Wharton Business School was what she was most proud of. How is it possible? Do you know who my teacher is? He is. No matter who he is, you have to understand this logic, Ron said helplessly, slowing down his tone. First of all, everyone likes money, right? No one can get along with a US dollar. Then, why doesn't your finance teacher make money himself but choose to teach in school? Ha 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 ha. Caroline was speechless after being rebuked by Ron's words, and Max laughed in the back seat of the car. But, maybe the teachers who taught me finance disdained to make money in the stock market. Caroline wanted to struggle one last time. Do you believe what you said? Caroline lowered her head under Ron's questioning, but Ron did not continue to chase her. Instead, he stopped while he was ahead. While Ron and Max were chatting, the car quickly drove to the new house that Ron had prepared. As soon as Max arrived, he found that this house was unusual. What's going on? Why are there steel plates behind all the windows? And that door, why does it look so much like the safes in the bank vault? Max pointed at the strange-shaped house in front of him and said, "Don't worry, the steel plates behind those windows can be opened. This is a safe house I prepared for you. I bought it from a madman with doomsday fantasies. Not only that, there is also a secret room in this house, hidden 5 meters underground under the fireplace. If you store some food and fresh water in it, the automatic ventilation system can allow you to stay there for a long time, even if you encounter a nuclear attack." Ron looked at the house with satisfaction and explained to the two women. Caroline was puzzled and asked, "But why do we have to live in a house like this?" "Because we just got a crazy president. He has a plan called Redemption Day." "Have you heard of it?" The two women shook their heads. They were not interested in politics. Ron could only continue to explain. He plans to pass a bill to select a day. On this day every year, people will be able to commit any crime to vent their emotions, and God will redeem the people who died on this day and take them to heaven. I don't think that when others know that there are only 2 lovely women living in a house, they will not list this place as the primary target of violence. I am very willing to protect you, but I also know that I can't be with you all the time, so I can only prepare a house like this for you." "Didn't you say that he just planned to?" "I don't think anyone will pass such a crazy bill, Ron. You are too worried." "I hope so, but it's better to be prepared, isn't it?" Ron nodded without comment. In fact, this word was intended only to comfort the two women. Earlier, Finch had hacked into Warren's personal computer. He had reached a secret deal with several congressmen on this bill. The passage of the bill was a foregone conclusion, so he hurriedly bought a house and gave it to the two women. In addition, he also made corresponding arrangements for other confidants. They also gave this secret plan a sensational name, called the Human Purge Plan. The Day of Redemption sounds like a very fair activity. Everyone can kill anyone indiscriminately, and those who want to kill will not be punished. But don't forget that the rich will hire a lot of bodyguards to protect themselves and their families. They will not be harmed on the Day of Redemption, because ordinary people who take up arms just for fun will never be the opponents of those professionally trained bodyguards. The final result can only be that the lower class kills each other, and the elites can take the opportunity to save a large amount of pensions and reduce the burden on their companies. As for the lack of people, at worst, they can recruit again after the Day of Redemption. As long as they want to continue to live, they will always have to work for the elites companies. If you feel bad, you can return the money you make to me as the purchase price after the TV series based on you two makes money, but I still can't accept it. This house is too expensive. We can't afford it with our copyright income. Caroline was still trying to shirk her responsibility. As if to prove Ron's foresight, the music on the car radio suddenly stopped. Important news, Congress has just passed a proposal by the new President Warren. In order to reduce the unemployment rate and reduce disputes between people, from now on, August 19th of each year will be set as the Day of Redemption. On this day, all violent acts will be allowed and redeemed by God. May everyone cleanse their souls in this day of indulgence. God bless America and rebirth of the country. The two women were shocked when they heard the news. They stood there motionless for a long time, looking at Ron in shock. Today is August 18th, which means that when the clock strikes midnight tonight, the whole United States will fall into disorderly killing. If they still live in the same place, they will definitely not be able to live well tomorrow. You know, the place where they rented a house before was one of the most chaotic slums in Los Angeles. Well, I knew they might pass this resolution, but I didn't expect it to be so fast. Ron used his hand to help the two women close their chins. But I think this should give you more reasons to accept this house, right? Okay, we accept this house. Ron, can you not leave tonight? Caroline pleaded pitifully while holding Ron's arm. Ron thought about it, and finally shook his head. I'm afraid not. If I stay here, you will become more unsafe. Do you think I have few enemies? I don't believe they will give up such a God-given opportunity and not try to kill me. If I stay here, maybe the few hooligans with pistols will become professionals with rocket launchers or rifles. Ron's worries of course not unreasonable. In fact, just as he was comforting the two, a group of strange people gathered in the conference room of Los Angeles City Hall, gathered around the round table to prepare for a meeting. The reason why they are so strange is not just because of their appearance, although most of them look fierce, but more because they dress differently from ordinary people. Some of them use mechanical arms to replace their original physical arms. Some have replaced most of their bodies with machines, and some even hide their entire faces behind white ninja masks. Without exception, these people focus their eyes on the man in the middle of the round table, whose half of his face is covered by a gas mask. It seems that everyone is here. That's great. I like people who are punctual. It shows your respect for me. The man with most of his face covered by a gas mask stood up. Maybe many of you don't know me yet. It's not my fault. It's because your ranks were too low before. But now, through the training you have gone through before, I think you are qualified to be my followers, so I am willing to formally introduce myself to you. My code name is Doctor. I am one of the 12 apostles of Aiden and the commander of all of you. With me, you don't need to think about anything. You just need to do it when I give an order. Do you understand? Understood, everyone answered together, except for the man with a robotic arm. He raised his hand with a robotic arm. If Ron was here, he would definitely recognize this person. It was the former royal agent with a modified robotic arm whom he met in the Burmese jungle during the Golden Circle. The doctor glanced at him, his eyes without any emotion. Do you have any questions? I want to know, what should we do if we have questions about the order? The doctor did not answer, but looked around. Does anyone have the same questions as her? You can raise them now. I am a very democratic person and very good at listening to different voices. If you have any ideas, you can come and communicate with me. However, looking around, everyone was silent, only the half-human, half-mechanical black warrior was a little moved. Just as he was about to raise his hand, the white ninja sitting next to him pressed his arm. What are you doing? The black warrior asked in a low voice. You are still useful, you can't die now, the white ninja said coldly. Is there no one else? The doctor saw the little movements of the ninja and the black warrior, but did not say anything, but continued to ask questions, but this time no one answered again. He left his seat and walked to the man with the mechanical arm. It seems that no one has the same question as you, so I can only answer you alone. If someone has questions about my orders, I usually choose to let this person die. Are you satisfied with this answer? After speaking, a sharp blade appeared in his hand without warning and quickly inserted into the man's abdomen. The man fell to the ground in pain, holding his wound before he could react. Clean him up, don't let him dirty the floor here, after all, this is someone else's place. Chapter 606 Great Chaos. The man with the mechanical arm was dragged away. Except for a few outliers, the rest of the people sat upright. Everyone was afraid of their own safety. They all saw that this doctor was definitely a tough guy. He even enjoyed the fear of others. Okay, now no one has any objections, so I can tell you the purpose of gathering you together today. The doctor admired the expressions of the people around him with satisfaction, and opened a slide, which was Ron's photo. It's him, Ron Lee Cooper, who has ruined our plans many times. After our roundtable discussion, we decided to execute him. Hey, he's just a pretty boy. Even if he is really powerful, he is at most a pretty boy who can fight. I don't think he is worth so many of us mobilizing troops. At the round table, a woman with long black hair leisurely lifted her long beautiful legs on the table, without any respect for the doctor. But no matter how tempting her action was in the eyes of the men around her, except for the sound of swallowing saliva, no one dared to step forward to make a fuss. Because she was one of the few people who were indifferent to the doctor's threats just now. I know you, Baroness. I know you have a good relationship with other apostles, but this is not a reason for you to be arrogant and ignorant. The doctor frowned and glanced at the woman. This was a person who even gave him a headache. Ron, you are not just a pretty boy who can fight. If the guy I just killed was still alive, he would tell you this, but I think Mr. Blake sitting next to you will also tell you this. He has a deep understanding of this. Next to the Baroness was the cyborg named Blake, who was part of the second batch of Aiden's human transformation project. He was many times stronger than the guy who only transformed one arm, but he still lost to Ron and was almost beaten to death. Yes, that's right, he was the black cyborg who stole the MI6 virus in London. Ron thought he had beaten him to death and even dismantled him into parts and gave them to Howard and others for research, but he never expected that this guy was not dead yet. The brain was dormant under the protection of the mechanical shell. When Aiden found his body and restarted it, he was alive again and transformed again. If his original body still retains 70% of the human part, then his human part is less than 30% now. Hearing the doctor's words, everyone looked at Blake. Blake stood up awkwardly. Yes, I am the unlucky guy who was almost killed by him. Even though my body is suitable for Adine's current highest level of transformation machinery, it's all just a coincidence. If I am given another chance, it's still difficult for you to beat him." The white-clothed ninja who had been silent suddenly spoke. Although most of the people present did not know the identity of this ninja, seeing that even the doctor and the Baroness next to him, who was not easy to mess with, saluted it, they immediately understood that this was also a big shot. "Why do you say that? White Ghost, do you know him too?" The tone of the Baroness when talking to the white-clothed ninja was obviously much better than when talking to the doctor. "I've dealt with him before because of a mission. He's very good with a gun," White Ghost answered concisely. The doctor and the Baroness looked at each other. They knew that in the entire conference room, in terms of combat power, White Ghost was the undisputed number one. Even he praised Ron's fast shooting skills, so Ron must have some outstanding qualities, maybe even stronger than they originally thought. Maybe he is really strong. So what if his gun is fast? Don't forget, we have so many people, and each of them is an elite of 18. I believe you can definitely kill him, and tonight's day of redemption is the best chance." The doctor stood up and said, "Thank you for the decree passed by the new president. Because of the day of redemption, the outside is in chaos now. As long as you take advantage of the chaos, you will definitely have a chance. According to the latest intelligence, he is now in an apartment in Pasadena. You can set off now. If any of you can kill him, I promise to nominate him to be the 13th apostle." There was a cheer from the crowd. Adine's apostles were the highest level within Adine, and all Adine members regarded becoming apostles as their lifelong goal. Can you believe it? Ron, such a ridiculous law was passed in the meeting. They actually planned to set the period from 9 o'clock tonight to 9 o'clock the next morning as the day of redemption. This is clearly a trick to incite citizens to kill each other. What the hell? Howard greeted Ron as soon as he saw him. He continued the installation work at hand. As soon as the news announced this information, Howard was very smart to get a large amount of explosion-proof materials from the school, and asked his brothers to help turn his home into a safe fortress. Before Ron came, they had been working for a long time. I've said it before, Warren is a lunatic, but there are still so many people who voted for him. I can only understand that the ordinary people at the bottom may have too much resentment towards the elites and want to take this opportunity to vent, Ron said as he took off his coat and joined the work. Howard's old house is not a common wooden structure in the United States, but a very rare reinforced concrete structure. It only needs a little modification to become a solid fortress to shelter his friends. So when Howard proposed his plan, he immediately received a warm response from his brothers. Go find trouble with the rich. Do many people in the slums think so? Will we be in danger? Raj asked cautiously. Among Ron's group of friends, he's the richest one. Don't worry, Raj, no one except us knows that you are a super rich man who is as wealthy as a country, and you also believe that we will not harm you, right? Ron patted his shoulder and comforted him. Those slum thugs should target the wealthy people living in Beverly Hills. Beverly Hills? I remember that your girlfriend Tauza and her family seem to live there. Don't you need to go and see? Leonard said thoughtfully. Actually, I just came from there. I'm not worried at all. Those hooligans who are good enough to attack Beverly Hills are destined to return empty-handed tonight. Ron sneered. Do you know what rich people are? They can invite the best security companies in the United States to serve as their bodyguards in just 3 hours. Now there are at least thousands of mercenaries gathered in Beverly Hills, and they also have heavy weapons. They even set up temporary fortifications at several intersections. The broken guns in the hands of the hooligans can't do anything to them. Unless they can get a few heavy artillery and use shells to plow the fortifications at the intersections several times, they will have a chance to enter Beverly Hills. Otherwise, they will only die in vain under the crossfire of machine guns. May God bless those unlucky guys. Howard made a cross on his chest. After all, this is only the first year and they have no experience. After making sufficient preparations in the second year, maybe they can go to Beverly Hills to try. How is the progress here? After helping Howard install the metal door, Ron looked up at the house. All doors and windows are reinforced with metal plates. Without special tools, don't even think about opening them. The garage door is also welded shut. After the day of redemption, we can open it with an electric saw. Sheldon and Raj brought a lot of snacks, and Leonard brought a backup generator. We plan to play Dungeons and Dragons all night. Do you want to join us? Howard invited sincerely. But Ron simply shook his head. I have a feeling that many old friends will come to me tonight to reminisce about the past. If I stay here, it will definitely cause you a lot of trouble. I wish you all a good time. Also, please take good care of Sheldon for me. Ron shook his head, turned around, got in the car and drove towards the sunset. He did not go back to the apartment or anyone's house, but returned to his house next to Claire's. Claire's family next door went back to the old Pritchett's house with Mitchell. The old Pritchett also lived in Beverly Hills, where the security force was enough to keep their family safe. The other family next to Ron's house was also deserted at this time. I don't know where the whole family went to take refuge. This community is a middle-class community. They don't have the strength to invite a large number of security forces like high-end communities like Beverly Hills. Because of their own poorer property, they are easily targeted by others, so most people choose to take refuge elsewhere. Now there is almost only Ron's family left in the entire community. The moonlight is getting late, and the hands of the clock have reached 9 o'clock. The music on the radio stopped abruptly and turned into an emergency notice. Dear believers, I am your new President Warren. I declare that from now on, the day of redemption has officially begun. God will forgive all your sins. Amen. As soon as the voice fell, bursts of gunfire and screams came from the street, as well as the laughter of the mob. Groups of well-prepared thugs poured into the streets, mercilessly swinging bullets in their guns and sharp blades at people they knew or didn't know. Broken limbs and blood were everywhere. Crazy people pried open houses one by one, dragged out the original owners like lambs, and then beheaded them one by one in the street, and enjoyed it. Some of them were seeking revenge on their neighbors because of previous conflicts, some were simply upset with someone and wanted to kill them, and some were even simpler, just wanting to take this opportunity to make a fortune. For a time, the whole United States was shrouded in chaos. Even the middle-class community that Ron locked up was mixed with a group of stupid thieves who wanted to make money. Henry, are you really sure this is the place you said you could make a fortune? We have visited 5 houses, and we have nothing to gain except the TVs in the houses. But how much are these TVs worth? Said a freckled white boy behind the 5-man theft team. It's all these damn rich people's fault. They took all the property away in advance and hid it in their country villas or somewhere else. But I believe they must have something they didn't take away in time, or there are rich people who didn't have time to go out of tune. If we can catch one, we will make a fortune. Maybe we can even taste the tender skin and flesh of the rich lady, the leading black man with a wretched look said while rubbing his hands excitedly. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly noticed an unusual house in front of him. Unlike other houses with closed doors or dim lights in an attempt to conceal their existence, the owner of this house actually turned on the lights in a dignified manner. They could even hear music coming from the house, as if provoking the 5-member team. Look! There's someone in that house. Brothers, follow us, we're going to make a fortune. Hold your guns, I can't wait to see the rich people who used to be so arrogant crying at our feet, the leading black man shouted excitedly, and rushed towards the house excitedly without waiting for his companions to catch up. As soon as his feet stepped on the lawn, there was a crack, and his feet seemed to step on something special, and before he had time to look down, boom, the violent explosion blew him into pieces, and then like rain, the remains of his limbs and flesh were sprinkled on his other 4 companions. The 5-member group, now the only female member of the 4-member group, wiped the flesh on her face and couldn't help screaming. She completely collapsed. However, the magical thing is that even if there were landmine explosions and screams outside, the people in the house seemed to have never noticed it. He even waved to the people outside, changed to a waltz, and began to dance alone in the house. The other 3 male companions were so angry that they screamed and pulled out their weapons to shoot at him, but the small caliber pistol bullets hit the glass without making even a spot. This damn guy actually installed bulletproof glass at home. He killed Tom. Oh my god, he actually killed Tom. I want to avenge him, the freckled boy who was just called Henry roared, waving a crowbar, and rushed out with the other 2 male companions. With Tom's previous experience, they were very careful not to pass through the lawn, but walked towards the house from the path at the door, but this was not a foolproof plan. They had just walked halfway when Ron suddenly stopped dancing, opened the window and pulled it down from above, and gently pulled the trigger of a large caliber Gatling machine gun. Goodbye, scumbags. 6 black hole barrels quickly rotated, and blue flames spurted out of the muzzles. In an instant, the 3-person team was beaten into a mess, and they could no longer be distinguished from each other. Outside the door, Only the screaming woman was left. What bad luck. The cleaner will definitely charge extra for this kind of rubbish, Ron complained as he looked at the piece of meat on the ground in annoyance. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 607, Brawl. I found Ron. He's at home in the Yasana community. Outside the community, Blake, attracted by the gunshot, shouted excitedly into the intercom. According to the doctor's order, the special operations team organized against Ron began to search for Ron throughout Los Angeles. Blake was assigned to this area. He thought he would not meet Ron because according to the information obtained from the investigation, Ron often lent this house to his friends, and he rarely lived here. So he only arranged for Blake to come here, and he took a large group of people to the apartment in Pasadena, where Ron lived the longest. The Baroness also took a few people to search the IRS Special Operations Team. When enemies meet, they are particularly jealous. Blake was killed by Ron once. It stands to reason that he should rush up to take revenge immediately, but this time he held back. He knew Ron's strength. He always saw the miserable state of a few gangsters just now, and knew that it was impossible to break through by force with his own strength. After killing several hooligans outside, Ron ignored the screaming woman standing there, closed the window and started dancing again in the house. He even drew the curtains to prevent himself from getting upset, but through the light in the house, Blake could still vaguely see Ron dancing. After 15 minutes, several of Ron's companions who were searching nearby gathered around Blake. Perhaps they were tired of screaming, and the female companions of the hooligans had left at some point, leaving only Ron in the house, swaying to the music, looking very leisurely. Is that our target? He looks no different from those idiots we usually kill. I wonder what the people up there have to be careful of. The blindfolded companion observed the situation in the house with a telescope and said disdainfully, Iron Can, I heard that you were almost killed by this pretty boy last time? It's not because you like men, and when you saw the beauty, you couldn't help but become a weakling, although I really want to punch you in the head now, because we are in the same camp for the time being, and we need to rely on your strength to kill Ron, so I decided to let you go for the time being, pirate, and I have to remind you that that man is definitely not as simple as you think. Blake suppressed his anger and said, this body of mine uses Adine's most advanced human body transformation technology. In terms of physical data, it is even stronger than the White Ghost, but it is still no match for the White Ghost and Ron. In the words of Mr. White Ghost, how much strength and speed are not important. What is really important is to find the balance of the body. The closer the balance, the stronger. I have figured out a little bit of the trick now. Bang! Blake was still chattering away, while the pirate had already impatiently pulled the trigger. He had already set up his sniper rifle after observing Ron's situation just now, and he had already locked onto the trajectory of Ron's dance steps. Okay, it's done. Even if he's a stronger person, what can he do? It's still just a matter of one bullet. Ron's figure in the room fell to the ground after the gunshot, and there was no sign of him getting up again. Judging from the position of the bullet just now, it should be a direct headshot. The pirate was the most famous sniper in Adine, and facing an unprepared opponent at this distance was simply child's play. Ho ha ho ho! Several companions behind the pirate laughed together, and Blake's eyes widened in disbelief. I know you want to use the strength of your opponent to cover up your own incompetence, but this time you obviously got the wrong target. The pirate patted Blake's face proudly, turned around and shouted to his companions generously, guys, come with me to cut off his head and report back. Tonight I invite you to the best nightclub in Los Angeles, and all expenses will be paid by me. The pirate wait, be careful. There are mines buried on his lawn. Blake hurriedly reminded when he saw that his companions had already left the place where they had just hidden. Landmines? It's really a coward's trick. The pirate curled his lips, and was even more disdainful of Blake's caution, but he still took his reminder to heart, and carefully directed his men to bypass the lawn. He originally planned to use a crowbar to unlock the door, but as soon as he pulled the door handle and twisted it, the door opened. This guy is really confident. Does he believe that he can handle anyone? The pirate laughed sarcastically, and immediately the younger brother next to him said, so what if he is confident? In the end, he still fell under the gun of the pirate boss. It's a dummy. The younger brother pushed open the door and was about to cut off Ron's head at the corpse, but found that the corpse hit by the pirate and fell to the ground was not Ron's at all, but a dummy made of a quilt and a hanger. The bottom of the hanger was installed on a toy train. The train ran along the track laid in the living room. The dummy fell to the ground under the impact of the bullet, and the train was still rotating on the ground. Every time it turned, it would blow a whistle, as if mocking the intruders. However, even if they realized that something was wrong, it was too late. The wardrobe facing the door suddenly opened and a black gun muzzle stretched out. Bang bang bang, 5 gunshots, including the pirate, all fell to the ground, and one person had a bullet hole on his forehead. When he died, the pirate still had an expression of disbelief on his face. "Boss, how is it going over there? I heard gunshots. Do you need support?" Ron had just killed 5 intruders, and before he could clean up his mistake, his intercom rang. Just like when Aideen assassinated Ron, he knew he was difficult to deal with and knew to call more people. Ron, who has always been good at this, of course, would not forget the skill of calling people. As early as the day of redemption, when this policy was issued, Ron had already made arrangements for the response. Sheldon and his friends stayed at Howard's house. Howard's house had steel plates to reinforce the doors and windows, and it was a reinforced concrete structure, which was difficult to break in from the outside. In addition, Ethan had just moved in not far next door, so Ron was very confident about their safety. The neighbors of Caroline and Max's house are born on the left and Mr. and Mrs. Smith on the right. No matter which side, they can be guaranteed to be safe. Giselle and Hope have recently started to like the lesbian tricks, sometimes even forgetting that Ron is kissing beside them. Although Ron feels a little cuckolded, considering that the person who cuckolded him is another confidant of hers, he accepts this result and sometimes joins their games, so they naturally live together. With Giselle around, Ron doesn't believe they can encounter any danger. As for the Gallagher family, although only one little Carl has received professional training, it is clear that the Gallagher family itself is full of villains. It is good enough for them not to take the initiative to provoke others, so how could they be bullied by others? So Ron has no worries at all. Even in Beverly Hills, which has been protected by mercenaries, a little distance between the Tosi family and the old Pritchett family, Chen Buzzy just bought a house for retirement with a group of lonely old people with whom he has a good relationship. Although the residents of Beverly Hills have some complaints about this, they don't say much because these old people are amiable. After all, they also paid for it. These old men are Frank Moses, Joe Mason, Marvin Boggs, Guan Yuming, Hannibal Lecter and the pretty boy Andy Dufresne. Except for the last one, if they are well equipped, they can even break into the White House. It would be a disaster if anyone could still threaten old Pritchett and the Tosi family. Dad, I don't understand why the old men in House 145 came to walk on the lawn outside our house after they started killing people. Aren't they worried that there will be crazy neighbors who want to kill them? At Tosi's house, SJ asked innocently. As far as he knew, the community had been complaining about the old people in House 145 because some people were worried that more old people would come here to live. The day of redemption was a day that could magnify all evil thoughts. He had sufficient reason to suspect that someone would take this opportunity to cause trouble for those old people. An hour ago, he even proposed to take those old people home until the day of redemption was over, and he got Mr. Tosi's naive evaluation for this. So we can only pray to God to protect them. We can't stop others from being malicious towards us, but at least we can stop ourselves from hurting others. God bless America, God bless the city on the hill. Mrs. Tosi made a cross on her chest devoutly. If Ron were here, he might have the energy to protect them. By the way, where is Ron? Collins, don't you have a date, please? Mom, there are crazy people all over the streets today. Who would go on a date on such a day? And he has so many things to do, he probably doesn't have time to come, Collins said comfortingly. Despite this, he was still a little disappointed. Although Beverly Hills is protected by mercenaries and is one of the safest places, he still minded a little that Ron May came to protect her. As soon as he finished speaking, SJ, who had been watching outside through the monitor, suddenly exclaimed, "SHH, don't talk. There are people outside, coming to our house. I have never seen these people. Are they also coming to our lawn for a walk? Why do so many people like to walk on our lawn? Don't they have their own lawn?" SJ complained in a low voice while tightening the weapon in his hand. He was certainly not stupid. At this time, the strangers who broke into the community did not look like decent people. There were only 2 men in the family, and he had to take the responsibility of protecting his family. Mr. Taozai patted his son's back encouragingly. Baroness, I don't understand why we have to trouble a businessman who runs a fast food chain. Isn't our target tonight Ron? Or do you have a grudge against this family, outside Taozai's house? A subordinate cautiously asked the sexy and beautiful woman next to him. Our target is of course Ron, but the way to solve it may not necessarily be a head-on confrontation. That's what idiots like the doctor and the white ghost do. The Baroness smiled proudly. We can choose a smarter way, such as capturing his woman and threatening him with his woman's life. Are you talking about Collins Tausi? I know he is Ron's girlfriend, but according to our intelligence, Ron has many women. He will really. The subordinate didn't finish his words, and was terrified by the Baroness's glance. Of course he will, although he always looks like a playboy outside, but I can guarantee that this woman is definitely the one he cherishes the most, because he also has an identity as Ron's fiancé, and other people in the Tausi family are also useful. They are all good friends of the Cooper family. Do you know why I give orders and you can only listen to me? This is the difference between me and you idiots, remember. Read the intelligence carefully next time. Yes, the subordinates shuddered and answered. Then catch that little bitch for me now. The Baroness waved her hand, and several of her men, armed with weapons, surrounded the Tosi family's house from different directions. After all, they were all professional killers, and their movements were very agile. SJ failed to lock the target after several attempts from the window, and could only continue to hold the weapon nervously in the house, sweating profusely. Facing such a situation, he actually had no way out. Mom, Collins, you go to the basement to hide first. Dad and I are here. If it doesn't work, I'll go out and lead them away. As if he suddenly made up his mind, SJ opened the door of the basement and pushed his mother and sister in. Although he was not strong, he was still a real man. However, as soon as he finished speaking, before Annie and Collins could refute, a boom sounded, and the scene exactly the same as the one at the door of Ron's house happened. Outside the Tosi family, an unlucky guy who used a landmine was not only blown to pieces by the landmine, but also had his two companions shot into sieves by the small steel balls blown out of the landmine. SJ looked at the surveillance camera in astonishment. When was there a landmine outside our house? Just after he finished speaking, he suddenly seemed to think of something and went crazy. He called up the surveillance video of the old people taking a walk before. After zooming in on the video, he noticed that when several old people were walking in wheelchairs, a small disc-like object would fall from under the wheelchairs from time to time. Those old people laid landmines on their lawn. Oh my God, it was those old people. Why did they help us? Are they thanking my mother for the cookies she made? SJ murmured. Collins, who didn't care about these things at all, suddenly found a familiar Asian face from the enlarged surveillance video and screamed excitedly, "This is Guan. This is Guan. Ron didn't forget me, he has been protecting me." Chapter 608 Chaos 2. Collins had been to Guan Yuming's antique shop with Ron when they were dating before, so he had some impression of Guan Yuming and knew that he was Ron's friend. Seeing him appear here and protect himself with a landmine, he certainly understood who is responsible for this. SJ asked carefully, "Collins, do you know him? Should we open the door for them?" "Open the door? Why should we open the door?" "Because they are outside now and are waving at us." SJ pointed to the old man on the surveillance video and said that in their backyard, a white old man was pushing a cart that looked like the kind commonly used by homeless people, walking on their lawn. When he noticed the camera, he waved at it with a smile. SJ remembered that this was also one of the old men who often hung out with the Asian old man. If the Asian old man was on his side, then this man should also be on his side. Although I know he and I should be in the same group, I don't think he means that. After Mr. Taozai finished speaking, the white old man suddenly lifted the cloth covering the cart. Hidden underneath were several rocket launchers. The surveillance camera had just captured two intruders climbing over the wall. The white old man seemed to have the ability to predict the future. He suddenly picked up one of the rocket launchers and pulled the trigger without even aiming at the place where the intruders climbed over the wall. Boom! The rocket blew a small hole in the wall next to it, and even a section of the wall was blown down, not to mention the flesh and blood of the intruders, who were directly blown to pieces. FXXK. 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 Where did this old thing come from? Why would an ordinary chain restaurant owner have such a level of bodyguards? Even the elite agents of the CIA don't have this level, the Baroness asked angrily. The actions of the white old man just now have surpassed the scope of combat experience and formed an instinct for foreseeing danger. There are only a few masters in the world who have this ability. How could such a master be willing to be a bodyguard for an ordinary chain restaurant owner? What if it is a former CIA elite agent? The current CIA agents are not as good as before. I think I have seen this face. That's right. He is Marvin Borges, a former member of the CIA Impossible team, a subordinate who accompanied the Baroness to watch the battle. Surveillance thought hard for a long time and finally came up with a name. Impossible Team. What kind of a name is this? Are you sure there is such a department in the CIA? The Baroness looked skeptical. The full name is the Impossible Mission Team, or IMF for short. It was founded during the Cold War and is one of the only CIA organizations that Adine has not infiltrated yet. However, this organization has become very weak after being passed down to the present. Only Ethan is still struggling to support it. By the way, this person is also Ron's good friend. The older subordinate had a nostalgic look in his eyes. I still remember the many incredible tasks that the team has completed, especially the team leader Frank Moses. He was a character that the first generation of apostles wanted to win over, etc. Where is Frank Moses? Halfway through his words, the older subordinate realized that the core members of the team were missing, and suddenly showed a look of horror. What's wrong with one less person? You said it before, they are all old guys who were active in the Cold War. It's been so long, even if one or two of them died, it's normal. The Baroness said this with confidence, and suddenly felt a chill behind her head. An old voice sounded behind her. Sorry, I'm an old guy who has lived too long. I haven't died yet, which has troubled you. The Baroness turned her head slowly. At some point, all the men behind her had already been lying on the ground, without making a sound, quietly, as if they were asleep. Only the figures of two white and one black old men were left standing there. If she still didn't know what happened at this time, then her commander's work would be in vain. Guan Yuming and Marvin were just baits thrown out by the cunning Frank. When they attracted all the attention of the Baroness's men, Frank and his other two companions quietly moved to their side and quietly eliminated those men who were watching the show one by one. This was a piece of cake for the former king of spies. Although as a secret agent, we are known for using all means, it is our label, but I have to say that your move of bullying the old, weak, women and children is really too despicable. Are all young people nowadays so tasteless? Sorry, I am married, and I don't have the habit of treating female prisoners well, otherwise my wife will be jealous. Speaking of his wife, Frank's tough face rarely became gentle, and his nerves unconsciously relaxed a little. However, this moment of relaxation immediately gave the Baroness an opportunity to suddenly turn around and punch Frank in the face. Frank was already an old man in the arena, so how could he fall for such a simple and direct trick? He stretched out his hand to block it, and was about to reach out to grab the Baroness's wrist and control him again. But at this moment, the Baroness's fist suddenly opened, and before Frank could grab his wrist, she grabbed Frank's wrist first. Frank thought it was not good, and just as he was about to break free, the Baroness's body suddenly softened, like a snake, swinging down with Frank's hand as a fulcrum, and actually drilled under his crotch. And that's not all. After the Baroness handed it over, she also pulled Frank's ankle with her hand and dragged him to the ground. Frank quickly took out his pistol and shot at the Baroness, who was running away. But he was old after all. In a hurry, none of the bullets hit the target. He could only watch the Baroness disappear into the night. Do you think it's necessary to call Ron and tell him? Andy said worriedly. No, based on my understanding of these terrorist organizations, he shouldn't appear anywhere tonight. With so many men lost, what he needs to do most now is to pass the blame to others. Frank thought for a while and said, send a message to Ron and tell him that his fiancée is safe. This way he should be more at ease when dealing with it. Andy nodded in agreement and took out his mobile phone to start editing the message, but what he didn't know was that even if he sent the message, Ron would not have the time to read it, because at this moment, he was facing the most serious crisis in his life. After receiving Blake's intelligence, the doctor and others gathered outside Ron's house one after another. This time, they were very obedient and did not make any rash moves, so Ron could only watch them gather outside, but he could do nothing about them. Ron was alone, and Adine's attackers began to invade from all directions at the same time. Even though the existence of landmines forced them to slow down a bit, Ron was unable to do anything and could only take care of one side. You seem to be a little exhausted, boss. Do you really not need us to help you? My grenade launcher has been thirsty for a long time. On the second floor of the house with the door tightly closed in the distance, the class was observing Ron's situation with a telescope while stroking his precious grenade launcher with his hands. Even the old guy Frank can use tricks, how could Ron not? In fact, as early as after the policy of the Day of Redemption was promulgated, Finch's machine actually spit out Ron's number this time. It predicted Ron's death. Finch immediately called Ron to inform him of the shocking news. So Ron had already made arrangements. First, he assigned his most important people to be protected by his confidants, and then used himself as bait to track those who had bad intentions towards him. Ron had already had others lying in ambush nearby. This move was much smarter than Frank's, but the disadvantage was also very obvious, that is, it was very dependent on Ron's own strength. If he could not resist Adine's attack, or if the people nearby did not rescue him in time, then he might really die here. From this perspective, the extreme prediction could not be considered inaccurate. Don't worry yet, Ron shot out of the window, knocking down 2 Adine intruders. Without waiting for the others to find him and fight back, he immediately left the original window, quickly moved to another window in the direction, fired a few more shots and moved again. I don't believe that the person who assassinated me plans to kill me with these despicable guys. I have a hunch that he must have prepared a bigger surprise for me. You continue to lurk and wait until the big surprise they prepared for me appears. Then you will know what to do. As soon as Ron finished speaking, he suddenly felt a sense of panic in his heart. In his instinctive reaction to the crisis, he immediately gave up the plan to continue shooting from the window and immediately dodged to the side. As soon as he left his original position, with a swish, the curtain of the window just now broke into 2 pieces. Ron turned around and saw a white-clothed ninja holding a samurai sword standing behind him in the place where he was just now. You again, Ron said with a headache. Now she knew what the big surprise Adine had prepared for him was. Nice to meet you again. I have been learning various magic tricks all over the world during this period. I promise that I will never be fooled by your bullet magic again this time. White Ghost swung his samurai sword, and pointed the tip of the sword directly at Ron. Today is the day you die. Although White Ghost failed in the last duel with Ron, he did not lose heart. Instead, after carefully recalling the process of the duel with Ron, he attributed the failure to Ron's magic tricks. After all, he clearly saw Ron put the Smith & Wesson M500 revolver into the holster, so how did it become Taurus after pulling it out? Faced with a strange situation, White Ghost, who did not know the existence of the portable space, could only attribute it all to Ron's magic skills. So he started a journey of exploration of magic. Until now, when Adine summoned him again to perform a task related to Ron, he thought he had become a master and decided to go out in person to settle the feud with Ron. Really? So you've spent a lot of time studying magic, knowing that White Ghost was going in the wrong direction. Ron was too lazy to explain to him, or rather, he was more willing to use this information error to achieve an unexpected effect. Have you ever thought that my magic level might not improve during this period? Ron said, and suddenly raised his hand and fired. He thought he could hit White Ghost, who was caught off guard. Unexpectedly, White Ghost waved the samurai sword in an orderly manner and actually cut the bullets one by one. The blade that was wielded vigorously was like a wall, isolating everything from outside. Under the mask, White Ghost's face showed a trace of satisfaction. Success was just around the corner. But how could Ron do what White Ghost wanted? Seeing that White Ghost was getting closer and closer, Ron threw away the empty revolver, and just as White Ghost was about to "Can't you cut bullets? Keep cutting if you can," Ron shouted while pulling the trigger. The firing pin fired the shotgun primer, the fulminate of mercury ignited the gunpowder, and the bursting gas pushed the 12 small lead bullets in the shotgun out of the muzzle. Ordinary bullets can only hit one point, but modern bullets can use these small lead bullets to cover an entire area with their power. White Ghost's eyes can almost capture the movement trajectory of each of the 12 small lead bullets, but it is impossible for him to cut them one by one. There are 12 of them. This means that he needs to show 12 knives in an instant, which is beyond the limit of human beings. Faced with this situation, the best way White Ghost can think of is to dodge. Bang! The shotgun hit a small hole in the wall behind White Ghost. If he hadn't hidden behind the pillar in time, he would have been deceived now. But this is not a long-term solution, because Ron's shotgun is automatic. Aren't you good at fighting? Come out. Come and cut the bullets, Ron shouted while madly outputting to the pillar where White Ghost was hiding, suppressing him behind the pillar with fierce firepower. The White Ghost behind the pillar did not forget to calmly calculate the power comparison between the two sides even at such a dangerous moment. It is known that Ron's automatic shotgun drum has a capacity of 28 rounds. It takes a total of 15 steps to walk from the position where he just stood to the pillar where he hid. According to his current shooting speed, when he walks to the pillar, there will be at least 5 bullets left in the drum. If he continues to hide behind the pillar, he will definitely die. But what if he doesn't hide behind the pillar? With Ron's shooting skills, no matter which side of the pillar it breaks out from, Ron will shoot at it at the first time. In the end, he will still die. It's just a matter of dying sooner or later. At this point, there's only one way. I hope you are not lying to me, Master. The White Ghost sighed and sheathed the sword. He slowly pulled out the second samurai sword from his back. This is a strange weapon with an emerald green blade. It is more appropriate to say that it is a children's toy than a murder weapon. But judging from the cautious attitude of the White Ghost towards him, it doesn't look like a toy at all. When he was sure of winning, his eyes suddenly blurred and Ron saw an AA-12 automatic shotgun with a drum magazine in his hand. Chapter 609, and Xiang shot. Eat the Dragon God's sword. The White Ghost suddenly flashed out from behind the pillar and swung his samurai sword heavily. A magical thing happened. His green samurai sword actually cut out a sword energy, and then the sword energy turned into a green dragon and pounced on Ron as if it were real. Go! Ron grabbed an injured invader who was wailing on the ground and threw it at the dragon. As soon as the dragon touched the person, it immediately opened its mouth and swallowed the person in one bite. However, because the dragon had no entity, the swallowed injured person crossed an arc without any hindrance and fell to the ground again. But when he fell to the ground, his body was motionless and his eyes had lost their vitality. Ron didn't believe that he was just asleep. From the looks of it, he was definitely dead. After swallowing the injured person, the dragon continued to attack Ron in a straight line. The tables, chairs and benches that were hit by the dragon remained in place, without moving. It has no effect on entities, but it can kill people, so it's an attack on the soul? Interesting, Ron thought so while getting out of the way of the dragon. The dragon walked in a straight line and was not very fast. Ron moved sideways a few steps and easily avoided the dragon's bite. But if that was all, could this trick be called a secret by White Ghost's master? White Ghost swung the samurai sword again, and the dragon turned its head like a dancing lion attracted by a hydrangea, turned around and bit Ron. This really caught Ron off guard. He could only lie on the ground and kick the wall with his feet. The whole person flew backwards with the force of the kick and fell heavily to the ground. But fortunately, this time he moved far enough sideways, and the dragon just brushed past his toes. Even so, in the fish tank that was pierced by the dragon, 6 small goldfish that were originally swimming freely suddenly closed their eyes and floated to the surface with their white bellies turned upside down. However, this is still not over. The White Ghost samurai sword is the key to controlling the dragon. With every swing of the sword, the dragon will turn around and continue to pounce on Ron tirelessly. What's more terrifying is that even if it hits something, it will be useless. The dragon will pass through the object like a shadow. Seeing the little goldfish with its belly turned upside down, Ron suddenly remembered something. Many years ago, he once got a pistol. It was a very rare orange weapon, the Suicide M1911 pistol. There was a sentence in the weapon description that this gun can make people die peacefully. Ron used to think that the characteristics of this weapon were just funny, but now, he suddenly had a little understanding. Whether it was the injured person who was used as a shield by her just now, or the little goldfish in the fish tank, didn't they die peacefully? So, is it possible that this seemingly funny characteristic is meant to imply that the attack method of this gun is also a direct attack on the soul? If this is true, then there is a lot of potential. Although destroying the soul and destroying the enemy physically with bullets have the same result, both of which are to kill the opponent, the difference is that physical bullets may not be able to kill this dragon, but soul bullets may be useful. Assuming that the dragon transformed by the sword energy of White Ghost is a kind of energy. If you want to make this energy disappear, you must give it more corresponding energy, such as soul, to offset all its energy, or use the same energy to bombard it. According to the law of conservation of energy, it can also cancel each other out. Thinking of this, Ron took out a long-dusted collector's edition M1911 pistol from his personal space, stopped his exhausted steps, turned around, and aimed the muzzle at the dragon that was rushing towards him. White Ghost Ron was completely confused by this confusing operation. This move of Dragon God Sword is the highest secret of their school of ninja. The dragon condensed by the sword energy has no entity, but it can directly attack the soul. Ron would not be stupid enough to think that he could kill the dragon condensed by the sword energy with a gun, right? As White Ghost was thinking this, Ron had already pulled the trigger. Bang, bang, bang. The bullets passed through Jurong's shadow without any surprise, but this time was different from the other times. Every time a bullet passed through the dragon's body became a little smaller. When Ron finished firing a magazine of bullets, the dragon had changed from a giant beast as thick as a wellhead to a mini dragon that was not much thicker than a mop stick. Looking closely, it even felt a little cute. But unfortunately, Ron was not someone who was easily moved by cute little animals. He replaced the pistol with a new magazine full of bullets and aimed the gun at the dragon again. Bang! The dragon disappeared, and White Ghost seemed to have been hit hard in the chest. He spit out a large mouthful of blood, staining the white mask red. If it weren't for the samurai sword supporting his body, Ron had no doubt that he would fall directly in front of him. Even so, White Ghost was in a very bad condition now. He knelt on his knees in front of Ron, holding the samurai sword tightly in his hands, barely supporting the weight of his upper body. "What's the matter? Are you going to wish me a happy new year and ask for a red envelope?" Ron said sarcastically without mercy, as always. However, White Ghost had no intention of arguing with Ron at this moment. He covered his chest and muttered to himself in disbelief, "This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. How could the dragon god summoned by the dragon god sword be killed by a small pistol? The dragon god sword is obviously the highest secret of our Genji clan. How could it be defeated by a pistol? What kind of move is this? Tranquil shot, I just named it. How about it? Pretty cool, right?" Ron casually turned the pistol around his fingertips, blew a puff of non-existent gunpowder and put the gun back into the holster. The whole action was as smooth as a cowboy in a western movie, but no one would think that Ron's action was just good looking. The same was true for Blake, who had been watching the show at the door. Although he had followed the White Ghost's orders and had not participated in the battle, he watched the entire battle process. Ron's elusive gun drawing skills left a deep impression on him. This super fast gun drawing skills, where he had nothing in his hand 1 second and a pistol in his hand the next, was completely beyond his cognition. "You lost, so you have to leave your life behind, but before you leave your life behind, you need to tell me some secrets of 18. Do you plan to tell me the truth and then I will give you a decent death? Or do I use my own means to get what I want from you and then chop your body into pieces and feed it to the dogs? Do you think you won?" Although the White Ghost was a little short of energy due to internal injuries, the master's temperament made him extremely confident when he said this. "Please remember, now all people are surrounding you, not you and me alone. Now I only need to give an order and the people outside can beat you into receive in minutes. Catcha." Hearing the conversation in the house, Blake waved his hand, and the men around him responded by loading the guns. Ron's house has a good masonry structure, but it can only block bullets from pistols and small caliber rifles. Facing the heavy firepower of more than 12 millimeters outside, the thickness of the wall is not enough. This time, in order to completely kill Ron, the doctor even found a way to transport a 20mm anti-aircraft machine gun and pointed the muzzle at the direction of Ron's house. "Really?" Ron smiled, and the mockery on his face became stronger. "You don't think you are the only one who is stalling for time and waiting for someone, right? Why can't I wait for someone too?" "You wait for someone? Who are you waiting for?" White Ghost spit out blood again in a hurry, but Ron did not answer him. Instead, he walked to the phonograph, took a vinyl record from the shelf below, and put it into the phonograph. The melodious music, with a blessing of Ron's high-power speakers, instantly spread to everyone's ears. Just as the pear blossoms were blooming all over the sky, the river was covered with soft gauze. Katyusha stood on the steep bank. Her singing sounded like the bright spring light. A Soviet song that was seriously out of tune with the style of Free America was sung leisurely, and for some reason, White Ghost also heard some whistling sounds from the song. But immediately, White Ghost realized where the whistling sound came from. "Disperse. Everyone, disperse." White Ghost tried his best to stay focused, and shouted anxiously to the outside regardless of his own internal injuries, but it was too late. The dense rockets in the sky followed along determined shooting positions and landed one by one in an orderly manner on the open space around Ron's house, that is, in the crowd of 18 members who were surrounding Ron's house. Boom boom boom, fireworks and flowers made of flesh and blood bloomed around Ron's house, forming a strong contrast with a passionate Katyusha singing in the house and echoing each other. If this scene could be recorded by the camera, it would definitely be a rare classic shot in film history, but now, for the members of 18, it was just hell. Katyusha's music was a secret signal, and Arthur, who received the secret signal, immediately activated these launchers. In 20 seconds, the 5 Katyusha rocket launchers that Ron had arranged in advance poured a total of 120 rockets around Ron's house. Even Claire's house was burned and a wall was blown down by the rockets, not to mention 18's flesh and blood minions. Except for Yushin, who had already fled when he saw the situation was not good, and Blake, who quickly sprinted away from the explosion area with the strong body of a cyborg. The assassination team of Ron was wiped out. Now do you understand who is surrounding whom? So for the multiple choice question just now, what are you going to do? Before Ron finished speaking, White Ghost suddenly threw a small ball on the ground, and a large amount of smoke burst out with a bang. When the smoke cleared, White Ghost had disappeared. What bad luck, failed again. These ninjas are really troublesome. I should have shot him earlier. Ron looked around and ordered Arthur Hank to lead people to search around again. After still not finding White Ghost, he could only make arrangements. Boss, what are you going to do with those corpses? Do you need me to arrange it? No. Anyway, when we wake up tomorrow morning, the municipal staff will clean them all up. Now disperse. Good night, guys. You should go back to bed. Hey. How can he sleep so soundly? Obviously, there are the most people who hate her, and he should be the most scared, but he fell asleep before any of us. This is unfair. At Howard's house, Howard looked at Sheldon, who was sleeping soundly on his big bed, and said indignantly, "If we had known earlier, we should have left him in school and posted a message in the school forum, saying that Professor Sheldon is homeless tonight and will stay overnight in school." Believe me, those children who were tortured by Sheldon will definitely bring weapons and tear Sheldon to pieces in school, or even cut him into pieces and eat his flesh piece by piece. Raj also echoed with indignation. He originally wanted to sleep on the big bed with Howard. Anyway, killing someone today is not against the law. Otherwise, Raj didn't say the rest, but he had already cast a malicious look at Sheldon. If you are not afraid that Ron will come back to trouble you, please do as you please. I will not participate in your activities. Leonard spread his hands. I heard that last time Ron covered the person who offended him with honey and threw him next to the nest of red fire ants in order to deal with him. I hope you are lucky this time. Ron will give you a more comfortable way of playing for the sake of friendship. I don't want to kill Sheldon. Absolutely not. I'm just joking. Raj shuddered and shook his head repeatedly. In fact, although Sheldon is usually annoying, they have thought of drowning Sheldon in the toilet more than once, but it's just a thought. Putting aside Hilton's bad personality, they still regard Sheldon as a good friend. Especially Leonard. To be precise, he still owes Sheldon a life. If we had known it would be like this, we should have brought the mattresses from your house and slept together in the living room. Howard changed the subject to help his good friend out. There's no way. It's too difficult to move those mattresses back with the strength of a few of us, not to mention that our elevator is still broken, Leonard said helplessly. Speaking of this, I wanted to ask, a long time ago, was the elevator in your apartment broken from the beginning? Of course not. Leonard was about to answer when a familiar yet unfamiliar voice suddenly came from behind him. Several little Otacus were scared and screamed and hugged each other. There was no other way, so the person could only take the initiative to walk under the light. Don't be so startled, okay? It's me, Ron. Oh my god, how did you get in? We clearly blocked all the doors and windows with steel plates. Howard finally breathed a sigh of relief after seeing the identity of the person. Because the exhaust port of the ventilation duct is just right for you to get in, but fortunately, I didn't notice this problem, otherwise when I saw you, you would have been dead. Ron took off his coat that was dirty from climbing the ventilation duct. Do you want to hear the story of Leonard and the elevator? Chapter 610, Thanksgiving. It has been a while since the day of redemption. Except for those who lost their loved ones and the municipal company that was busy cleaning up the broken bodies on the streets, it seems that everyone has forgotten this disaster. Even the murder videos shot and uploaded by everyone on a certain video website were blocked because they received reports from parents that they were too violent and bloody. You can do it, but you can't say it. If you say it, try to cover your mouth. I have to say that this thinking is very American. When Sheldon complained about this problem, Ron said, "What's this? One day they will even ban their own president from speaking. Sheldon expressed his disbelief, and Ron didn't say anything. In his original time and space, this was a fact. Although such a weird thing has not been found in this time and space, the former president was indeed killed by someone while in office. From this point of view, it is far weirder than Ron's previous life. Apart from anything else, the fact that this plan can be passed on the day of redemption is enough to show the weirdness of this time and space. Ding ding ding. Pritchett knocked on the wine glass, attracting everyone's attention to him and pulling Ron back from his thoughts. Does everyone have wine? I'm going to start a Thanksgiving toast, said old Pritchett, after making sure that everyone had something in their glass. He glared at Ron and said, first of all, I want to thank Ron for this Thanksgiving. If he had accidentally used an excessive amount of rockets in self-defense against the thieves who invaded his house and accidentally blew down Claire's house, I wouldn't have been able to enjoy the family happiness of living with my daughter and grandchildren during this period. You're welcome. You can consider this my Thanksgiving gift to you. I came here empty-handed anyway. Ron seemed not to sense the sarcasm in old Pritchett's words at all. He proudly raised his glass and saluted him. Okay, then let's follow the convention. No way? Dad, are you going to do it this year? It's the same every year. You use some inexplicable reasons to choose a family member you think you are most proud of this year. Have you ever thought that this behavior is harmful to other people who have not been affirmed by you? Such a bad habit should have been. Claire was halfway through his incessant speech, but old Pritchett looked at him and smiled. It's you, the person I am most proud of this year. I chose you. Yes. I said that such excellent traditions of our family should continue to be passed on. I have to say that your choice this year was really wise. Even though Claire has become a mother of 3 children, she couldn't help jumping up and cheering with joy when she heard her always serious father praising her. But he was too happy too soon. Old Pritchett hadn't finished speaking yet, and his eyes swept across everyone's faces one by one. And you, Ron, Phil, Mitchell, actually all of you. I know I have caused competition in the family, and you all have complaints about me, but look at the results. Ron alone killed dozens of intruders who were trying to sneak into his house. Phil opened his own magic supply store. Zioka led the team to win important games, and even Mitchell scared away an intruder. Of course there's you, Jay, Gloria explained to everyone while taking small steps, in order to spend more time with Joe. He has been sending him to school and picking him up from school every day recently. Uncle Pritchett, what's wrong with Gloria? Did you beat her? Ron asked curiously as he looked at Gloria, who kept stepping on the spot. Old Pritchett said proudly, no, I challenged him to walk 100,000 steps in a week. That's easy. Ron was puzzled. Gloria added, but the steps in the mall don't count. Okay, now I understand the difficulty of the challenge. Ron nodded in understanding. Gloria is a heavy shopaholic, and old Pritchett happens to be a rich man, so whenever she has nothing to do, Gloria wanders around the mall, shopping non-stop. When she gets home, she is already exhausted. Asking her to challenge herself to walk 100,000 steps a week without counting the steps in the mall is no less difficult than asking Ron's father, old George, to challenge himself to do 10 push-ups every day. She is only 1,000 steps away from completing the challenge, and then she will get the same honor as you. Her motivation comes from my usual stinginess with praise. I'll look around and see all the winners. I feel very proud. Cheers to all of us. Old Pritchett raised his glass. Cheers. Everyone cheered together. After everyone dispersed and got their own food, Ron found an opportunity to get close to old Uncle Pritchett. Hey, Uncle Pritchett, do you really believe that everyone is as good as you say? Mitchell can actually drive away an intruder? This is too ridiculous, right? How did he drive away the intruder? Flat, the enchanting dance moves he learned in the gay club. Hey, you and he are cousins, and you have the same heroic blood flowing in your bodies. Maybe the side of your father, that is, the part of your mother's DNA, has begun to awaken, making her more and more like a real man. Old Pritchett felt more and more guilty as he spoke. When he first heard the news, he was just busy being happy, but when Ron reminded him of this, he felt that the story was too fake, especially when they were talking about this topic. Mitchell got sauce on his food, took out a pink handkerchief from his pocket, and wiped the sauce off the corner of his elegant mouth. Old Pritchett and Ron shuddered as they watched. Ron saw through his guilty conscience, but did not continue to dwell on this issue, instead switching to another question. Then let's talk about Kai leading the team to victory. You know I come from a rugby family, and I know Kai's rugby level. It's far worse than even SJ's. There's no way he could lead a weak school team like theirs to defeat a strong team from Texas. There must be a problem here. Old Pritchett looked left and right, confirmed the positions of his son and daughter-in-law, pulled Ron in front of him, and growled in a low voice, I know that the coach is your father's student, and with Collie's mediocre skills, it's impossible for him to win, but what can I do? I have no evidence. If I question her, Mitchell will definitely think that I'm still expressing dissatisfaction with his homosexuality, so you really still feel awkward about their marriage, right? Ron's mouth curled up with a teasing smile. Old Pritchett pouted mischievously like a child. Of course, if you give birth to a son in the future, and he doesn't use the sword given by God to conquer women, but uses that thing as a troublemaker, I guarantee you will be more uncomfortable than me. Indeed, if that happens, I will break his legs. However, I have a different opinion from you about whether Mitchell is the troublemaker or the one being troubled, but that doesn't matter. Ron showed his signature mischievous grin. Do you want to investigate the truth? If you want, I can find out all the truth. Look at the reasons why I am proud of them. A coward like Mitchell simply cannot have the courage. Facing a gangster who invaded the house, Zioka is also unable to lead the team to victory by defeating the strong with the weak. He lost all 5 games against this team by a large margin, including Gloria. If he doesn't go shopping in the mall, it is impossible for him to get 100,000 steps. Only Claire's running championship seems a little reasonable. Even Phil's magic supply store was opened with a compensation for the home insurance you bought for their family. Old Pritchett complained about his children one by one, and drank the whiskey in his glass in one breath. Fortunately, old George didn't come today, otherwise, his children would lose completely to him. Ever since old George started to hook up with old Pritchett's sister, Ron and Sheldon's mother, the two have always disliked each other. As a result, they have been fighting from youth to middle age, and now to old age. In the first half of the competition, old Pritchett has always been far ahead with his career advantages, but when it comes to the last round of the competition with his children, he loses completely. So every time old George comes to Los Angeles, old Pritchett will use various excuses to leave the city to avoid being ridiculed by him in person. Ron's view on the quarrel between his father and uncle has also changed from helplessness at the beginning to interest now. Don't say it, it's really interesting to see two old guys fighting like children. Not only Phil's magic shop, but also the new car I bought for Luke, should all be from the insurance compensation. I knew that someone would take that opportunity to cause trouble for me, so I bought the highest amount of insurance for all the houses around my house in advance. Even though I caused so much damage, not only did none of the neighbors blame me, but they became more enthusiastic towards me, Ron added proudly. If I had a neighbor like you, who destroyed my house, but the compensation money was enough to build 2 more, I would also treat you as a guest of honor. Old Pritchett rolled his eyes at him. Can you really find out how they did it? Of course there is no problem. Don't forget, I am a professional agent. I can even find out that the new British Prime Minister had an affair with his female secretary, not to mention these trivial matters at home, Ron said confidently. Old Pritchett was very curious. Then where do you plan to start? First of all, of course, I will start with spies. Ron turned around and hooked his finger at the little Asian girl who had been staring at him in the corner. The little girl walked over with admiration. Lily, tell me, do you have anything to tell me? Lily Pritchett, the adopted daughter of Mitchell and Zioka from Vietnam, is well known to all that, although it is not illegal for a man to fall in love with another man. Physiological constraints still prevent them from having offspring, so they can only adopt from somewhere else. Can you blow up my house like you did to Aunt Claire's house? Lily asked with stars in her eyes in admiration. Of course, but can you tell me why? Because our house is full of all kinds of paintings that my eldest and second fathers asked others to draw. It's so ugly, and my classmates don't like it when they come to play at home, Lily said distressedly. Well, it seems that this is the fault of Mitchell and Zioka's excessive female hormones. Whenever their female hormones are too strong, they will start to have crazy emotions about art, such as singing on the street, painting on the walls of their home, etc. Ron nodded in understanding, gently rubbed Lily's head, squatted down, and looked at Lily at the same level. Although I can blow up your house, this will make your eldest and second fathers angry, and you don't want to do it, right? Lily nodded disappointedly. But this doesn't mean I don't have other ways. Seeing that the child took the bait, Ron changed the subject. If this method requires you to exchange other secrets, is it okay? What secret do you want to know? Hearing that her troubles might be solved, Lily's eyes were full of little stars again. No way, you even lied to children. Old Pritchett spread his hands behind her and gestured with his mouth. Ron pressed his hands down, signaling him to calm down, and then continued to ask Lily in a bewitching tone, your second father said that he drove away the gangsters. Did you and your father see it with your own eyes? No. Lily shook her head like a rattle. When we got home, we heard a sound of glass breaking. When we walked into the living room, the glass and the vase on the table were broken. Then the second father made a pose like this and said that the gangsters had run away and there was no need to be afraid, as if she was afraid that Ron didn't understand. Little Lily also imitated Mitchell's appearance at the time and made a handsome pose. Seeing her pose, old Pritchett covered his face with a painful face. Anything else? Lily asked innocently. Ron and old Pritchett looked at each other and asked, one last thing, did your family have nunchucks recently? That's what my eldest father confiscated from students at school. I haven't told anyone. How did you know? Little Lily looked surprised. This is a man's intuition. Okay, go and have fun. I'll find a chance to help you solve the problem you mentioned. Ron patted Lily's head, and Lily happily rushed outside. After he left, Ron asked, how is it? Mitchell, has this been confirmed? I'll send someone to her house to extract fingerprints from the nunchaku and vase fragments to confirm it. Damn, my kung fu boy is back again, old Pritchett lamented. Seeing the pose Lily made, he knew what was going on. Mitchell was obsessed with Chinese martial arts for a while, and Ron happened to be learning Mo family boxing at the time, so he taught him a few moves, but Mitchell didn't learn anything. He learned nunchakus from Bruce Lee on TV and hid himself with nunchakus until he almost had a concussion. So whose truth do you want to know next? Chapter 611 Thanksgiving Detective. Why don't we check how Kai's team won? How about that? Old Pritchett looked at Kai, who was talking to someone but seemed uneasy. If he had to expose the truth about the children one by one, he would rather start with Kai, because Kai was always annoying. I don't think it's necessary. Looking at his appearance, it won't be long before he confesses himself. Ron looked at Kai's state and shook his head. He may prefer to attract attention and become the focus of the audience, but Kai has one advantage, that is, he can hardly hide things. I have a better idea. Do you want to hear it? What? Old Pritchett asked with interest. He knew that Ron could always come up with something new. Ron's eyes rolled and he immediately came up with an idea. Let's hold a commendation meeting for them. How about that? A ward meeting? Are you sure? Didn't we just reach a consensus to expose their bottom line? If the honors of others are also watered, then this commendation is not in vain. Old Pritchett was full of doubts. It's just to expose the truth. That's why we have to hold a commendation meeting. Ron showed a sly smile on his face. Uncle Pritchett, you must have heard of a proverb that says it takes countless lies to cover up a lie, right? What do you think if we hold a commendation meeting and let them go up one by one to talk about their own success stories? Then they will be in a panic standing on the stage because they can't make up a lie. Old Pritchett's eyes lit up. I have to say, your idea is really bad. Hi, kids. Dinner is starting. Old Pritchett walked to the table and called, everyone gather here. I just thought of something. Since we have so many successful people here today, why don't we let them talk about their success stories? And then set an example for the children. After Old Pritchett's words, several adults who had just been praised by him looked at each other. Their faces changed again and again. Ron and Old Pritchett looked at each other. These people really had something to hide. Well said, Uncle Pritchett. Ron immediately began to make fun of him. Why don't we start with you? You are the head of this family, and we should start with you to set an example for everyone. I saw on Facebook that Kiao's school performed a show called The First Thanksgiving in History today. Maybe you can tell us about Joe's performance. I saw it on Facebook, too. The school also posted photos, but why is there no Joe in these photos? Gloria asked curiously while flipping through her phone. This time, it was Old Pritchett who felt uneasy. Ron rolled his eyes helplessly and asked to Old Pritchett secretly with his mouth, no way, is there something fishy about your family taking their children to and from school on the bridge? Old Pritchett nodded at him secretly and pinched Joe's leg with his hand under the table. Fortunately, he was not completely unprepared for this and had secretly rehearsed the lines with Joe. Joe is the narrator in the show, so he is not on camera. This is normal. The camera is so small that it is impossible to fit every child, right? That's true. Gloria nodded in approval, then turned to look at her youngest son with a doting look. Then why don't you tell us the story of the first Thanksgiving in history? How about it? That's a good idea. We want to hear it so much." After a round of encouragement from everyone, Joe had to stand up. Once there lived a group of godless indigenous people on this land. They were ignorant and stupid until one day the white people came. Oh my God, Ron covered his face in embarrassment. Without asking, he knew that this must have been taught by her uncle, Old Pritchett, who had a serious tendency to discriminate against race. He finally understood why Old Pritchett was so diligent recently, picking up and dropping off Joe from school every day. The real situation was probably that Joe had not been to school at all these days, and was taken by Old Pritchett to play somewhere. In order to deal with his wife's sudden inspection, Old Pritchett taught such a set of nonsense based on his poor historical knowledge. "What the hell is this?" Gloria heard this. Her expression was as if she had eaten a fly. Then what? The white people felt sorry for these primitive people and taught them how to cultivate the land, but their kindness was misunderstood as aggression, so the war started. Joe continued to tell the story in a daze, and Claire couldn't help but exclaimed, "What kind of ghost school is this? They actually teach students these things. Is there any problem with this?" "This is what I was taught in school when I was a child," Zioka asked with a puzzled look on his face. Ron raised his hand, "And me, too. When I was a kid, it was written like this in the Texas textbooks, but in our textbooks, the ignorant natives refer to Mexicans. It seems that many schools in conservative areas of the inland United States teach this way." As Ron spoke, he walked up to Joe, covered his mouth with his hand, and whispered, "Don't say anything. I'll buy you ice cream later." Then he turned to face everyone. There was no other way. He had to save the situation now. "I didn't expect that this kind of school education with strong racial discrimination has spread to Los Angeles, such an advanced international city. Uncle Pritchett, you must protest to the school, otherwise, who knows what other mess they will give Joe." "That makes sense. I will go to the principal to protest on Monday." While everyone was still not reacting, Old Pritchett nodded in agreement. However, this kind of cover-up rhetoric may only fool Gloria, a foreigner. Several other people have already shown suspicious eyes. Old Pritchett quickly looked at Ron for help, but Ron waved his hand. "Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. But speaking of Thanksgiving celebrations, why don't we talk about your achievements? For example, you, Gloria, didn't go to the mall, but completed the challenge of 100,000 steps in a week. This achievement is really amazing." Ron held Gloria's pedometer and deliberately asked in a puzzled tone, "I'm just a little curious, how come your walking route happens to coincide with Claire's marathon route?" Gloria's guilty face changed, but that was not the end. Bourne suddenly uttered a puzzled "Wait, that's not right. This route does not completely coincide with a marathon route. There's a shortcut of about 3 kilometers in the middle, so what is going on? Did you run half of the marathon with Claire and come back early by taking a shortcut? Or did you put the pedometer on Claire, and then she took a shortcut when she was running and won the first place?" Now, even Claire, who was drinking water, was not calm. She coughed and sprayed the water she just drank out of her nose. Ron smiled playfully. Judging from their performance, Ron's guess was very close to the truth. If you want to divert the suspicion on yourself, the best way is not to prove your innocence, but to immediately question others and muddy the water. In this way, when others are busy with their own affairs, naturally no one will pay attention to your problems. This is the experience Ron summed up when he played script killing with his friends in his previous life, but he didn't expect to use it here. Seeing this, Old Pritchett, who had been shrewd all his life, immediately understood Ron's intention and seized the opportunity to fight back, pretending to be enlightened and standing up. "I see, what Ron said is true. I said you were wearing high heels and didn't exercise much? How could you walk 100,000 steps? You must have put the pedometer on Claire, right, eh?" Gloria hadn't explained the whole thing yet, and Alex over there had already begun to question his mother. "So you really took a shortcut, right? I said that when I bought coffee, I didn't wait for you at the 5-kilometer waiting point, and I thought I accidentally missed it, but it turns out you didn't pass by there at all, like father, like daughter." When Claire saw that the question was directed at herself, she had an idea and immediately pointed at Mitchell and shouted, "Mitchell didn't chase away the bad guys. He accidentally smashed a house when he was playing with nunchucks at home. If you don't believe me, look." She even covered a stick mark on her face with concealer. "He must have accidentally hit himself in the face when he was playing with nunchucks. It seems to be true." Ron wiped the concealer on Mitchell's face with his hand, and there was a little text on the scar below, "Made in Mexico. Your nunchaku is not only from China, but also a knockoff. I'm curious, where did you get such a top-notch nunchaku? Old Pritchett asked curiously. Where's Meiguo? It means America, but the pronunciation is the pronunciation of Chinese pinyin, Ron explained with a smile. I report that Zioka didn't win the football game by his own ability. He used the intercom to eavesdrop on the opponent's coach's tactical arrangements. Mitchell immediately followed suit and transferred the conflict to her husband. In an instant, several adults in the room bit each other, but Ron and Old Pritchett's goal was achieved, that is, no one would pay attention to him skipping school with Joe. This trick is really useful, Ron. Now they have completely forgotten about me and Joe. While several people were arguing, Old Pritchett secretly left the table and said to Ron with gloating. As long as you don't worry about them quarreling and getting angry, don't worry, it's absolutely impossible. It will be 2 or 3 days at most, and they will ignore each other. If that happens, it will be even better. It will just give me a few days of peace. Otherwise, they will come over every day to eat and drink my food. Old Priest looked at his quarreling children with a sly smile. After a while, he began to feel depressed again. Why am I so successful in business, but none of my children's achievements can compare to old George's children? You and little George are so outstanding, and Missy merit a good husband, but Sheldon, who seems the most abnormal, is now a scientist. Don't say that, Uncle Priest. Luke has been doing very well with me recently. Maybe it won't be long before she can become an independent agent like me. And speaking of scientists, can Alex become an outstanding female scientist in the future? Do you know? You and Sheldon, who is as stingy with praise as you, have praised Alex more than once. Maybe Alex can really succeed. I have always been confident in her. As long as she is sure that it is something she wants to do, she can complete it. Speaking of which, you didn't bring Sheldon here today. What has he been busy with recently? A physics research project whose name I can't even pronounce. It seems to be called super asymmetry. Many people say that this research will give him a chance to win the Nobel Prize. Who cares? Just make him happy. Ron waved his hand and said indifferently. However, what he didn't know was that when he was attending Thanksgiving dinner at the old shop Richter's house, in the apartment in Pasadena, a Ron who looked exactly like him pushed the door and entered the room. The 4 people who were eating looked at him strangely. Ron, aren't you going to have dinner at Uncle Pritchett's house? Why are you back so early? Sheldon asked in surprise. Because Uncle Pritchett gave me a few experience coupons for the amusement park that is not yet opened. I can't wait to come back and want to share with you. Ron took out a few experience coupons and handed them to the 4 people. Westworld Amusement Park? Why have I never heard of this name? Raj asked curiously, looking at the name on the invitation ticket. Idiot, didn't you hear what Ron said? It's newly opened. How do you know? Yes, just like Howard said, this is a newly opened amusement park. It's normal that you don't know about it. Ron showed a stiff and strange smile on his face. Do you want to go together? Imagine, the whole amusement park is ours, there are no other guests, and there is no need to queue for all the rides. We will definitely have a lot of fun. No, I'm only interested in theme parks like Disney and Harry Potter. I have no interest in Western-themed amusement parks like this. Sheldon shook his head. Come on, I'm a Westerner myself. If I want to see what Westworld looks like, why don't I go back to my hometown in Texas? What if I tell you that all the waiters in this amusement park are highly simulated robots? Ron continued to persuade. It is said that from the appearance, there is no difference from a real person. Even the feel is exactly the same as a real person. I heard that they can provide some special services. The eyes of the 4 lit up. Ron's persuasion really touched them. The robot successfully attracted Sheldon, and the word special service attracted the other 3 little perverts. Having sex with another woman is considered cheating on one's wife, but having sex with a robot shouldn't count, right? If it does count, then does the vibrator count as the number 1 bastard among men? I'll go, the 4 agreed in unison. Chapter 612 Westworld. In a desert area on the border between Northern California and Nevada, in a closed valley, next to a park that looks like a small town in the American West during the pioneering era, stands a sci-fi-style building. It is the entrance to the Westworld amusement park and the maintenance building. When Sheldon and his 4 companions followed Ron into the building, they were shocked by what was inside. The visitor lobby not only displays a variety of bionic materials, which feel just like human skin, but also the robots used for service in the amusement park, whose internal structures are disassembled into parts one by one and displayed in the window for people to visit. The precise structure amazed the scientists, especially Howard, who is a mechanical engineer himself. He only needs to take a look at the delicate structure of these robot parts to know what specific functions they play, so he understands how reasonable the design of these robots is. Oh my god. Ron, oh my god. These designs are so clever, aren't they? The robots made with this technology will be almost indistinguishable from real people. If this technology had been available for a long time, why would I marry a wife? I can build 365 robots for myself, and then have a different one serve me every day of the year, Howard said excitedly. Before getting married, he was the real entertainment robot master. This technology is much better than those broken things you made before that only had breasts or mouths. If this technology had been available for a long time, I wouldn't have a girlfriend, Raj agreed with approval. Please, this is the greatest technology of mankind. It should be used to do more meaningful things, such as making a robot puppy that won't pee and poop everywhere like a real puppy. Ron, can I make a reservation here? I want to make one too. Sheldon looked at Ron expectantly. The last time he begged Ron like this, he asked Ron to take him to see Stan Lee. Calm down, my friends. These are just the tip of the iceberg of the technology of this park. It is precisely with this outstanding technology that the Western world you will experience next will be more real. Ron pressed down with both hands, but before your journey to the West begins, you need to change your clothes first. In the pioneer era, the logistics flash t-shirt, my dear brother, in order for you to better experience the pioneer era, you need to change your clothes first. The four people looked in the direction of Ron's finger. A machine that looked like a space capsule stood quietly in a corner of the visitor hall. What is this? A locker room? Even if Howard went in, he couldn't stretch his arms straight. Right, Leonard asked curiously as he walked around the machine. How is it possible? This is just a scanner. When people go in, the machine will scan your various body data, and then the 3D printer on the other side will use the most advanced 3D printing technology to tailor-make the most suitable Western-style clothes for you, Ron explained patiently. Sheldon looked at the machine with his eyes shining. I'm so awesome, I want to be the first to try it. After that, without waiting for Ron's consent, he opened the door and went in. Ron pressed the start button, and a circle of lasers scanned Sheldon from head to toe. Immediately, the transmission port connected to the machine spit out several clothes and shoes. Sheldon came out and couldn't wait to take them. He went to the next dressing room to change and try them on. When he came out, he had transformed into a Western cowboy. Wow, it fits me so well. If I can install such a machine at home, I don't have to go to the clothing store anymore. It's my turn next, let me try it. No, it's obviously my turn. I came first, it should be me. As everyone knows, Sheldon has always been the most picky one. Even Sheldon was so satisfied, the other three friends couldn't help but get curious, and they all rushed to be the second one, so Ron had to speak up to maintain order. Don't worry, come one by one. After a while, the four of them changed into Western cowboy clothes from the pioneer era. I brought each of them a belt with 2 pistols inserted in it. The peace-loving people who never touched weapons were shocked and looked at Ron in confusion. Ron had no choice but to take out a gun and point it at Sheldon's head. Before the 4 people could stop him, Ron had already pulled the trigger. Bang! After the gunshot, the scene of Sheldon's head bursting into pieces as they imagined did not appear. Only Sheldon's screams continued until she couldn't breathe, and then she found that she was safe and sound. See? Although this gun can make the same sound of fire as a real gun, it won't fire bullets at all. This is an important tool for you in the amusement park. Any robot hit by this gun will be in a state of real death. It is also one of the violent projects in the amusement park. Take it. You can experience the feeling of robbing a bank or being a train robber in the park. That's great. I've long wanted to try the feeling of a Western robber. Then what are you waiting for? Go and have fun. I'll go say hello to the people here and come to find you in a while, Ron said as he pushed open the door to the park. On the other side of the door, the pioneer town that seemed to have traveled through time and space was operating in an orderly manner, according to its own rules. The 4 scientists rushed into this Western-style town like a husky. After they left, Ron's expression suddenly froze, and he became as cold as a robot, standing quietly in place. Tap, 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 accompanied by the sound of high heels, a charming black-haired girl walked in from the other side of the corridor. If Frank was here, he would definitely recognize her as the Baroness who was going to kidnap Mr. Tosey's family that night. Start copying, Lady Nun said to the machine that had just scanned Sheldon and others. Immediately, the machine spit out something that looked like human skin. 3 robots with similar body shapes to Sheldon and others walked out of the locker room. Without the Baroness's further instructions, they took the human skin spit out by the machine one by one and put it on themselves like clothes. Immediately, 4 expressionless and naked scientists appeared in front of Lady Nun. The Baroness walked around them and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, it's exactly the same as the real thing. Now, turn on the machine, the Baroness suddenly shouted, and the 4 people raised their heads in unison. Enter the command, target Ron, disguise as Ron's friends and ambush him at his home, and use all means to assassinate the target. The 4 robots nodded together. Then, go. Bring me Ron's head. The Baroness waved her hand, and the 4 robots returned to the locker room, put on the clothes that Sheldon and the others had just taken off, and then drove their car to Los Angeles. The Baroness herself pinched Ron's solid chest muscles with appreciation, and her face flushed. This is simply a gift from God to the world. If you are not my enemy, you want to feel it well. What kind of power is under this body? As she spoke, the Baroness's movements became more and more indescribable. Sorry, Sheldon, I have to bring this guy back today. Its owner has something to do temporarily. I promise that he will only stay in our apartment for 1 night at most. Pasadena. When Ron led the little bear to open the door of the apartment, the 4 little friends were sitting on the sofa watching TV. Ron did not go home directly after leaving Pritchett's house, but went to Finch first. The machine spit out another number. He needed to go to Montreal with Reese. In order to prevent no one to take care of the dog when they were away, Ron was entrusted to take care of it for a few days. After all, in the whole of Los Angeles, apart from Finch, who had deliberately learned the Henan dialect commands, no one else could control Little Bear. Considering that Sheldon was very afraid of dogs, Ron did not plan to keep Little Bear in the apartment, but planned to keep him at Max and Caroline's place, so he would only leave him in the apartment for 1 night. Of course, no problem, as long as you make sure this cute little guy doesn't bark at night. Sheldon walked to Little Bear enthusiastically and stretched out his hand to touch his dog's head, but Little Bear took a step back with a wary look on his face and bared his teeth at Sheldon. Hey, this little guy doesn't seem to like me very much. Forget it, let's eat first, Ron. We just ordered an Italian bacon pizza and are waiting for you to come back and eat together. As he said that, Sheldon walked back to the sofa, but Ron stayed where he was, looking at Sheldon's back with a shocked face. Why are you still standing there? We're waiting for you to have dinner together, Ron, come on. Leonard waved at Ron as if nothing had happened, as if he didn't find it strange at all. The other 2 also looked as if they were used to it, and looked at Ron and waited for him to sit down. Wait, you guys, Ron wanted to say did you take the wrong medicine, but he stopped talking halfway, thinking of the little bear's behavior just now. The behavior of these 4 people today was very abnormal, and he had a vague suspicion that something was wrong. Leonard and the others have been good friends with Sheldon for many years. They must know how afraid Sheldon is of dogs. But even so, seeing that Sheldon was not only not afraid of the little bear, but was interested in it and wanted to touch it, this abnormal behavior was not only not surprising, but had no reaction. This is totally illogical. But Ron decided to put aside his suspicion and observe for the time being. Too many strange things have happened to her over the years. She has encountered parallel spaces twice. Maybe this time it is a new parallel space? Bacon pizza? It smells really good. Ron sat down and sniffed it. It would be even better if it was served with peanut butter. Where's the peanut butter? Howard, don't you like it this way the most? No matter which parallel universe Ron had been to before, Howard's allergy to nuts had never changed. Ron decided to use this to test it again. Peanut butter, yes, where's my peanut butter? Howard said in surprise. Wait a minute, I'll get it for you. Leonard stood up as if I didn't notice the abnormality in Ron's words. Peanut butter was brought, and Howard ate it according to Ron's instructions. He dipped a large piece of peanut butter on the pizza and enjoyed it. He put it in his mouth, chewed it twice and swallowed it. At this moment, Ron finally determined that there was definitely something wrong with the 4 people in front of him. Let me have a taste. What did you do today? Ron asked, pretending to get the pizza. Just when his hand touched the pizza box, he suddenly grabbed the box and slammed it on Howard's face. Leonard on the other side saw that things were not going well and quickly reached out to grab Ron. How could Ron let him succeed? Ron kicked hard on the floor and leaned back. The sofa flipped backwards under his series of actions. Leonard and Howard rolled and fell to the back, but Ron did a backflip and landed steadily. With a thud, the pistol in the portable space immediately appeared in his hand. Just as he was about to raise his hand to shoot, Ron was hugged by Raj. "What are you doing, Ron? Why don't you eat pizza together?" Raj's tone was normal, as if nothing had happened. It was the tone of normal conversation with friends, but at this moment in the scene, it made people feel creepy. Ron struggled hard twice, but he couldn't break free. Raj's arms were like two strong chains, binding him tightly. At the same time, Sheldon was walking towards him, and Howard and Leonard on the ground were slowly getting up. Although Ron couldn't figure out who these four fakes were, she knew that once she was surrounded by these four fakes, it would be difficult to escape no matter what. There was only one way out in this situation. Ron raised his wrist and pointed the gun at Sheldon, who was walking towards him. Although he was hugged from behind by Raj, he could still do it at this tiny angle. Ron pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! Double consecutive shots, 2 gunshots with almost no interval. One bullet hit Sheldon's chest and the other shot at Sheldon's head. However, a strange scene appeared. Ron's shot, which he thought was sure to hit, had no effect on Sheldon. The wound on Sheldon's chest did not even bleed, and the bullet hole on his head, when it was hit, actually emitted a spark of metal friction, knocking off a piece of his skin, revealing a skull that looked like metal inside. Robot. What the hell? Ron cursed inwardly, and did not give up the struggle. At this time, Sheldon had walked to his side and was about to reach out to Ron. As Sheldon raised his hand, Hewan suddenly kicked the ground, leaned his whole body weight on Raj, and stomped heavily on Sheldon's chest with his feet. Bang! Sheldon and Raj fell to the ground together, but Ron was still held tightly. The only good news was that Raj was the only one who was trapped. This was enough for Ron. Chapter 613 Westworld 2. If one shot doesn't kill the opponent, then 2 shots. If 2000 still doesn't work, then it means your gun's caliber is not big enough. This is the creed that Ron has always believed in since his debut. Since Taurus can't break the heads of these weird things, then the 12.7mm caliber of the M500 must be able to do it. The larger the caliber, the greater the power. This is an eternal truth. When Ron fell to the ground with Raj, the weapon in his hand had already been quietly replaced by a Smith & Wesson M500 revolver. He took the opportunity of falling to slightly break free of Raj's arm and pointed the muzzle at Raj's chin. Bang! The bullet penetrated the garbage's chin and then shot out from the top of his head. Raj's eyes flashed with fire. At the same time, a ball of warm liquid splashed on Ron's face. Ron wiped it with his hand and sniffed it in front of his nose. FK. It's engine oil. Although Ron wanted to look back to see what Raj, who he had killed, looked like, time did not allow him to look back. Sheldon, who he had just kicked down, had already stood up. Together with Leonard and Howard next to him, a black hole suddenly opened in the chest of the 3 people, and the muzzles of guns protruding from them were pointed at Ron. However, the robots moved quickly, but Ron was faster than them. Just when the black holes in their chests just stretched out, Ron had already pointed the muzzles of his guns at the other 3. Bang, bang, bang. This time Ron did not play any fancy double combos, but used the fastest speed to lock the other 3 with his breath, and then pulled the trigger. After 3 short and powerful gunshots, the 3 robots fell on their backs with expressionless faces. The brain hole opened by Ron kept flashing with electric sparks, and the body twisted back and forth on the ground a few times as if it was out of control, and then completely stopped moving. Ron had time to check the bodies of the 4 people. It would not have mattered if he hadn't checked. Upon checking, he found that they were all robots. Although Sheldon's dream has always been to turn himself into a real robot, Ron doesn't believe that he can convince the other 3 companions to agree to his absurd idea. What's more, even if Hilton becomes a robot, his personality will not change. He is still a sarcastic and cowardly robot. How can he fight against Ron? So Ron dares to be 100% sure that these robots must not be the product of Sheldon's self-transformation, but Ron's face immediately darkened. Is it you who did it? Machine. Ron took out his mobile phone, but did not dial any number. He just stared at the camera of the mobile phone and said this. He knew that the machine must have heard it. No matter how safe the mobile phone operating system is, it is just as ridiculous as a toy in front of the machine, a strategic weapon-level information collector. Look. Is this your masterpiece? Ron swiped his cell phone camera across the corpses of several robots, Do you think that no one can find your body if you hide it? Are you kidding? The world has not yet reached the point where machines can control the world. Disassembling your body into parts and installing it on trains or other means of transportation requires human intervention. I just need to go to each company one by one, and I will always find the place where your body is hiding, and then blow your body into pieces, to outsiders. Ron's current appearance is no different from a psychopath who is going crazy in front of his phone, but the machine is real, and Ron is one of the few humans who has been listed as a key focus target by the machine and has priority in all information. In less than a minute, Ron received a message on his phone. "It's not me, it's Aideen." Aideen. Ron immediately thought of the guys who came to assassinate him on the day of redemption. Although this kind of robot that is no different from a real person seems ridiculous, with Aideen's level of black technology, he might be able to make it. Where did they hide Sheldon? Westworld? What place is that? Ron felt that the name sounded familiar, but he just couldn't remember where it was exactly. You bought the amusement park that came with the movie company. Although this amusement park project was initiated by the previous boss, it has long been infiltrated and controlled by Aideen, because the robot experimental field, the specific address is Montreal area? The distance is not far, but considering the robots, it seems that more preparations need to be made. Ron looked at the map navigation and muttered to himself, "First of all, I at least need a means of transportation that is not controlled by any computer program." According to the machine, these robots were sent by Aideen. Ron did not disbelieve it, but he did not know whether the machine participated in Aideen's actions. For a non-human body with self-awareness, Ron has never hesitated to speculate his motives with the greatest malice. Almost all cars are now equipped with computer chips. Although they are not connected to the internet, it is hard to guarantee that the machine will not have other ways to control these chips. Think about it, if the chip of a car that is driving is suddenly controlled, and the accelerator is suddenly increased when it should slow down, what will happen to the car? Before completely eliminating the suspicion of a machine, Ron was unwilling to take any risks, so Ron was thinking hard when he was suddenly attracted by the sound of gunfire on TV. Looking at the old movie during World War II on TV, Ron suddenly had an idea. All vehicles during World War II, including tanks, airplanes, etc., all adopted the most basic mechanical structure. There were no smart chips involved in that era, so if Ron drove a car that was old enough, no matter how powerful the machine was, it would not be able to control his car. It seems that I have to go to the museum to borrow something. While Ron was still looking for a means of transportation to the Westworld amusement park, Sheldon and his 4 friends were having a great time here. Sheldon found the train station in the town, took the train, and wandered around the railway around the town. For a person who loves trains, it is not boring to do it as the main entertainment activity no matter how many times he goes around. Howard and Raj originally planned to do some violent activities, such as robbing a bank, but in the end, they found that even though they knew that the staff were all robots, they still couldn't make up their minds to shoot them. They could only find the sheriff to take a job as a sheriff, running back and forth in the town to deal with trivial matters, looking for a sense of existence. Leonard was tough for once. He really went to the only men's paradise in the town and taught the children of the skilled waitresses to read. He continued until the other 3 people who were tired of playing came to the men's paradise to find him. "Oh my God, you are actually teaching these little brats to read. You know they are all robots. Howard and I were just betting that this time is enough for you to play games with a few girls." He bet 1, I bet half, and I didn't expect that we both lost, Raj said in disbelief. "I know they are robots, but I still feel sorry for Penny." "Why don't you play?" Leonard asked back with a tangled face. "I don't want to let Bernadette down, I don't want to let Alex down," the 2 good men said in unison, and then they high-fived each other. "In addition, you have effectively avoided the occurrence of sexually transmitted diseases. According to the tradition of the pioneering era, at least 7 or 8 out of 10 women working in such places are carriers of the herpes virus," Sheldon said while looking around. "Has any of you seen Ron? Did he say he would join us soon?" The 3 of them shook their heads together. Leonard thought for a while and said, "Why don't we go look for him? Maybe he's having a great time on some entertainment project now? Where do you think Ron is most likely to stay if he comes in?" "That must be the bank. Even if it's an amusement park project, he must prefer to rob a bank. When he was a child, he had imagined robbing the bank in our town more than once," Sheldon said, with a nostalgic look on his face, but he suddenly got stuck halfway through, and his brows frowned deeper and deeper. Wait, do you think Ron is a little abnormal today? I feel like he is the same as usual. Is there anything different about him from usual? I didn't notice. Leonard shook his head in confusion. Do you think she was too nice to me today? She drove all the way here from Los Angeles, and she never made a single sarcastic comment about me the whole time. She was even a little too enthusiastic towards me. Isn't this abnormal? Well, this is indeed abnormal, Howard said, and immediately realized what a stupid mistake he had made. He immediately changed his words. Now that you mention it, it reminds me that Ron always enjoys bullying Sheldon. Today, not only did he not tease Sheldon, he even called him his dear brother. Yes, he usually calls Sheldon my stupid brother, Raj suddenly realized, and Ron's expression was a little stiff today. At first I thought it was my illusion, but so what? You don't think Ron was replaced by someone, do you? Who has the ability to kill him? Usually, whenever Ron got the chance, he would tease Sheldon. However, this situation did not happen even once today, which made these lovely scientists very uncomfortable. The speaker may not mean anything, but the listener may take it seriously. Then, he went over all of Ron's performance today in his mind, and suddenly raised his head alertly. This Ron must not be the usual Ron. He was switched. Why did you come to such a conclusion? Leonard asked with a frown. Although she also felt that Ron was strange today, Sheldon's statement was a bit mysterious. The wear of his holster is not right. Although Ron looks equally skilled with both hands, she is actually left-handed. Her left hand reacts faster, so when he carries two pistols, the holster on the left is always more worn. Ron was left-handed when he was a child. Except for his brothers and sisters who grew up with him, almost no one knew about this. This was ignored by the robot that imitated Ron, and then it was discovered by us. No way? If it wasn't Ron who brought us here, then who would it be? What does he want to do to us? Raj held his hands in horror. What else could it be? You must have been exposed, idiot. The fact that you're a rich second generation was exposed, so someone pretended to be Ron and kidnapped us to ask your father for a ransom. This is all your fault, Raj. You have to ask your father to take out my share of relaxation, Howard said half jokingly and half seriously. However, after he finished speaking, no one laughed at his joke. Howard was puzzled at first, but then he was shocked again, because he realized that the guess he said might be the closest to reality. Hey, guys, what are you talking about? As he was talking, Ron, who had changed his clothes, walked towards them. The four people looked at each other, feeling embarrassed as if they were caught talking bad about someone behind their back. Fortunately, Howard was relatively smart among them and took the initiative to stand up. We were just saying that we suddenly went out to play and forgot to inform our families. Who knows, those women might be imagining things now. Should we give them a call? After Howard finished speaking, Raja and Leonard couldn't help but give him a thumbs up in their hearts. It must be said that Howard's words were really clever. He used the reason that the women at home were worried, expressed his intention to go back earlier, and asked to call home. Of course, there was nothing he could do about it, because they didn't have their cell phones with them. I think Sheldon is the culprit of all this, because Sheldon believes that there were no such things as cell phones in the Western pioneer era. If any of them had a cell phone, he would feel like a play, so he strongly requested everyone to lock their cell phones in the lockers in the locker room. Don't worry, I've just called Penny and told her you're with me, and asked him to tell your women, don't worry, we can have a good time today. Ron easily resolved Howard's attack, and the four people's faces turned pale. If they were skeptical at first, they were now 100% sure that Ron had definitely been swapped. Ron was a person who was very afraid of trouble. According to his previous personality, if someone made such a request, he would definitely let the person who made the request call himself, instead of calling in advance to arrange things. But even if they knew how, the four of them were powerless, and even the guns on their bodies were fake guns specially provided by the amusement park. No matter what the other party intended for them, they had almost no power to fight back now. However, just when they were desperate, something strange happened. There was a buzzing sound in the sky. Everyone looked up and saw an old Corsair fighter flying across the sky and flying towards here. Chapter 614 Westworld 3. F-4U Corsair, a famous American carrier-based fighter during World War II. Ron once gave one to Old Pritchett, which is the one Sheldon and the others are seeing now. Except for the appearance and structure that are exactly the same as the Corsair during World War II, None of the other parts are old things from World War II. After all, technology has been moving forward. The materials now are no longer comparable to those during World War II. Not only are they more capable, but they are also lighter, which makes the aircraft fly more lightly in the air. The most important thing is that the entire structure does not use a single chip. No matter how powerful the machine is, it cannot have any effect on Ron. However, when Ron flew over the paradise, he found that he had wronged the machine. What the machine said was true. This paradise was really caused by Adine's people. When Ron's plane flew over the scientific research building, he had already made this judgment from the Adine logo on the upper floor. He was not unfamiliar with this logo. The last time he saw it was in the underground laboratory of Fort Detrick. So, when Ron saw this sign, he thought of the human specimens in the jars in the laboratory, and he immediately became angry. Go to hell, garbage. Ron pressed the launch button, and the tails of several rockets hanging under the wings suddenly burst into flames, shooting out like arrows, and hitting the Adine sign on the building hard. Isn't this a Westworld theme park? How can there be a plane from the World War II period? Is that a pirate? I seem to have seen it in the game. Sheldon looked at the plane that was rapidly rising after launching the rockets, and said with a strange look on his face. That is something from the World War II theme park that is about to open. Maybe the robot over there has a malfunction and drove the plane here. I will arrange for someone to shoot it down, but before that, everyone should stay in the safe house for a while. Ron was stunned for a moment, led the 4 people into a stable, and then opened the stable trough, revealing a small door inside, and helped the 4 people in one by one. As soon as the door of the safe house was closed, Sheldon turned to the other friends and said, "Guys, we have to find a way to get out of here. Are you crazy?" "Sheldon, there's a crazy robot outside, driving a World War II fighter plane and going crazy everywhere. If we go out now, what if we are killed by the crazy robot?" Raj said worriedly. "That's not a crazy robot. That's Ron." Sheldon turned around, stared at his 3 friends, and said word by word. "What? Ron?" Everyone opened their mouths in disbelief. "Didn't Ron just send us to the safe house? How did he get on the plane? The one who sent us in was not Ron. I don't know who he was. Maybe he was one of the other robots in this park that looked like real people. He just happened to put on Ron's skin and pretended to be Ron. But the real Ron doesn't look like this. Remember what we were discussing just now? Didn't you also doubt it just now? What's more, I remember very clearly that the plane was given by Ron to Uncle Pritchett. Uncle Pritchett liked that plane very much. No one except Ron could fly it," Sheldon said seriously. "You can doubt Sheldon's EQ, but you can never doubt Sheldon's IQ, especially his memory." Although Ron only showed Sheldon a photo of the plane he gave to old Pritchett once, Sheldon had the appearance of the plane deeply engraved in his mind. "You said that Ron who was with us just now was a robot. Oh my God, how is it possible? He looks no different from an ordinary person." Leonard shook his head in disbelief, but Howard confirmed Sheldon's statement. "It's not impossible. If he loaded a program to imitate Ron in advance, think about it, the robot NPCs we just met outside, they also look no different from normal people." "Shiva. We have been kidnapped by robots. What should we do? Will they ask my family for a ransom? Do you think $100 million can redeem me? Or $1 billion, it really can't be more. My dad opened a personal account for my pocket money, and there's only this much money in it." Hearing that Ron who just locked them up here was a robot, Raj was completely panicked. $1 billion. Howard and Leonard took a breath of cold air together. Although they had known that Raj's family was very rich, they never thought that they could be so rich, with $1 billion pocket money alone. "If I had known you were so rich, I should have kidnapped you first. We'll talk about this later." Leonard held down Howard, who was about to move. "The first thing we should think about now is how to get out of here. Do you have any good ideas? Let's take a look at what we have." The 4 people began to search their bodies, but in the end, they didn't find anything useful. Just when the 4 scientists in the basement were at a loss, Ron also encountered trouble. Although this amusement park nominally belonged to Ron, he didn't know anything about it. At first, he thought that this amusement park was just a few wooden houses built on wasteland to deceive tourists. In fact, this is exactly the case. The previous owner of this amusement park originally planned to do this, but he didn't expect it. He chose this place and happened to be favored by Adine. So Adine's people lurked into his company one by one and used Adine's funds to build it into what it is now. The unlucky guy who owned him before didn't even take a look at the company when he sold it, thinking that it was just a few broken wooden houses he had built casually. In fact, not only has a Western theme park with robots as NPCs been built here, but Adine has even deployed an air defense system here for self-protection. Swoosh! 2 anti-aircraft missiles were fired from the launcher hidden at the edge of the building, setting off an alarm on Ron's radar. Ron turned his head to look at the anti-aircraft missiles getting closer and closer, and couldn't help but feel scared. FXXK. It's just an amusement park. Is it necessary to install anti-aircraft missiles? While cursing, Ron pushed the rudder down hard, and the plane began to dive down with his operation. The advantage of doing this is that the plane can gain a greater speed through the effect of gravity, but the disadvantage is that if you accidentally miss the opportunity to pull up, the plane will crash into the ground, destroying the plane and killing people. When Ron's plane changed its direction, the anti-aircraft missiles also changed direction, facing down, and continued to chase Ron. Because Ron's plane was an old piston fighter, using the propeller in front of the fuselage for braking, while the anti-aircraft missile was a jet design, and its speed was much faster than Ron's plane. Seeing the anti-aircraft missile getting closer and closer, Ron not only did not show a scared expression, but became more and more excited. Go to hell! Just when it was about to hit the ground, Ron suddenly pulled the joystick back, and the plane drew an arc, successfully turned around less than 1 meter from the ground, and continued to fly into the sky. After discovering that Ron turned around, the anti-aircraft missile also immediately changed direction, but it was too late. Their speed was faster than Ron, so their turning radius was larger than Ron's. The corners that Ron could turn around, they might not be able to turn around. Boom! A small mushroom cloud rose from the ground. The strawberry anti-aircraft missile had no way to deal with Ron except to blow a small pit on the ground. Can I trust you, machine? Ron asked while flying the plane to avoid the bullets fired at him by the machine on the ground. He did not make any calls, but he believed that the machine must have been paying attention to his every move. Of course, your current authority is second only to Mr. Finch, a familiar mechanical voice sounded in the phone. Ron's eyes lit up. Although he had other means, he wanted to try out the feeling of cheating now. Okay then. I order you to start the hive for me now and accurately lock every robot here. Ron was of course not unprepared. He came here alone by plane. Long before he set off, he had already commissioned his friends in the Air Force to drop several large boxes nearby. Inside were the secret weapons that could deal with the current situation, the hive drones. Yes, sir, the machine agreed. In the distance, 6 boxes surrounding the amusement park suddenly opened their top covers, revealing a Katyusha-like launcher cylinder. The launcher started automatically without human operation. Countless drones slightly larger than heads were fired from the launchers one by one. After flying into the sky, they did not rush to leave, but after all the other drones took to the sky, they formed a neat formation in the air and attacked the amusement park like bees. In the playground, the robots that were shooting at Ron's plane in vain suddenly paused like a computer crash, and then immediately turned their guns and shot at the drones in the air. But unfortunately, the shooting skills of these robots were too poor, or the programmers who designed the attack program for them were too poor. In short, after a burst of random gunfire, the number of drones in the air did not decrease, but instead they were forced directly into the playground. The drones are in place. Do you want to issue an attack command? When the drones began to hover over the playground, Ron's mobile phone rang with the sound of the machine again. Start attacking. After Ron said this, the drones suddenly scattered, like meteors, and suddenly fell to the ground at the fastest speed. The target was the robots on the ground. When they approached the target, they immediately started the detonation program. Boom boom boom. After a burst of fire, there was no robot left on the ground that could still stand, only the broken limbs of the robots on the ground. Because they were still covered with human skin, they gave people a particularly terrifying feeling. At this time, Ron pulled the plane up to a high enough altitude, then opened the cabin and jumped down without hesitation. Bang! The parachute opened, and Ron floated slowly to the ground. The drones were like soldiers protecting Ron, surrounding him all the time, vigilantly observing every move on the ground. All these actions were seen by the black-haired Baroness in the scientific research building opposite the amusement park, which had just been bombed by Ron's rocket. Seeing Ron fall to the ground unscathed, she gritted her teeth in anger. Damn it, even in this way, We still couldn't kill him. What are your anti-aircraft missiles for? The organization gave you so much funding, why did you stop after firing 2 missiles? This time, she was fully responsible for the operation against Ron. He had originally hoped to be promoted to one of the 12 apostles by virtue of his merit in killing Ron, but he didn't expect that even with a secret base of 18, he still couldn't succeed. I've told you long ago that Ron is not so easy to deal with. The white ghost behind him walked to the window calmly. He has a group of good subordinates around him and his combat awareness is quite good. Coupled with his mysterious mode entry method, even I can't do anything to him, but I have already promised the higher-ups to kill him. What should I do now? Should I go back and tell the apostles that I'm bragging? Do you know what they will do to me? The Baroness screamed hysterically. In 18, you can seek help from the organization for anything you want to do, but the premise is that you must complete the effect promised to the organization. If you can't complete it, you will be punished by the organization. And Adine's punishment has always been terrible. Usually, they will use the punished as new medical research materials. Adine's medical research happens to focus on viruses, so the end can be imagined. Please, is there any way to help me? Even if it's just to hurt him, at least I can give an explanation to the apostles. I can't guarantee it, but I can try. Do you have bows and arrows here? White Ghost said as he walked to the back. The Baroness's face lit up when she heard it. Yes. There are several traditional hunting bows. Whatever you want, we have them, the Baroness replied hurriedly. Give me a bow and arrow of about 90 pounds to 120 pounds, and 3 arrows. If you can't hurt him, then I can't do anything. After the last battle, White Ghost had a new understanding of his master's secret book, but this time, he had to use a bow and arrow to use the forbidden technique. All the resistance robots on the ground have been suppressed. Please continue to issue the next command. After Ron landed on the ground, the machine immediately reported to him the results of the work just now. The following 2 drones will help me search for Sheldon and the others, and the rest will all get into that building and kill all the bastards inside. Ron pointed to the scientific research building opposite and ordered the machine. However, his order was rejected by the machine. The order is invalid. According to the 3 laws of robotics, drones cannot attack humans. Please change the order. Chapter 615 Rescue Success. The 3 laws of robotics. A robot may not injure a human being or allow a human being to come to harm. A robot must obey orders given to it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law. A robot must protect itself, except where such orders would conflict with the first or second laws. These are the 3 laws of robotics proposed by the famous science fiction writer Asimov in his science fiction novel, I, Robot, and are also known as Asimov's 3 laws. Ron never expected that Finch, this science fiction, actually used the settings in science fiction novels in his own machine. Although this setting has many loopholes and bugs, Finch remembered to add this, which at least shows that he still has some means for artificial intelligence. As for whether there are any other means besides the 3 laws of robotics, he doesn't know. But these are not important. What is important is how to deal with the people in the building and where Sheldon and the others are hiding. Even if these 2 problems are not urgent, Ron has other more important things to do, such as the white dragon that is rushing out of the research building. FXXK. This thing again. Is that damn sinister ninja still here? Looking at the dragon that is very familiar in front of him, Ron couldn't help but curse. This dragon is exactly the same as the last one. The only difference is that the last one was cyan, and this one is white. Ron made a prompt decision, immediately pulled out the M1911, and fired several shots at the oncoming dragon. However, a magical thing happened. The method that was very effective last time did not work this time. Seeing the dragon getting closer and closer, Ron was about to roll over to avoid it. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Your drone, which did not receive any orders from Ron, suddenly broke into the dragon's body, and then detonated in the phantom of the gathering dragon. After the explosion, Ron was surprised to find that the size of the dragon was much smaller than before. Did you arrange the machine just now? Well done. Send a few more drones in and blow the stink bug up, Ron shouted excitedly. With the explosion just now, he instantly understood the operation mode of this dragon. Like the blue dragon, this white dragon is also composed of energy, but the energy that constitutes it is not the sole power of the blue dragon, but a kind of energy similar to kinetic energy. When the drone exploded, the kinetic energy generated just offset part of the dragon's own kinetic energy, so the dragon's body became smaller. Ron has always been wary of these strange moves of the strange ninja. The main reason for this fear comes from the unknown. However, if he knew in advance what trump card the other party had, even if the white ghost was very good at fighting, Ron would only be a warrior with some martial arts. Can his samurai sword be faster than a bullet? Yes, the machine's answer was very concise. Just after he agreed, several drones hovering in the sky lined up in a column and rushed straight to the dragon. Boom! The drones exploded together, and the huge airflow directly blew the dragon away. The Baroness in the research building was stunned. No way, your special move was so easily cracked by Ron? You must have other tricks, right? The famous Genji ninja should not be just like this. I'm sorry, my strength is only this much? But it's definitely not that our Genji clan is not good enough, it's that my understanding is too poor. I failed to grasp the highest secret of the Genji clan. White Ghost threw away the abandoned bow and arrow and wiped the sweat from his head. Although the move just now seemed to be only for one time, it drained a lot of his physical strength. We should retreat now. If we don't leave, he will come in soon. But the punishment, the Baroness said in fear with an unwilling look in her eyes. There is always a way to avoid punishment, provided that you can return to the headquarters alive first, but I cannot guarantee that you can return alive if you meet Ron, White Ghost said as he walked towards the door, leaving only his back to the Baroness. He had said everything he should say, but it was hard to persuade the damned ghost with good words. If the Baroness chose to die, he would have no way to do anything. Okay, I'll go back with you. The Baroness gritted her teeth and finally made up her mind to follow White Ghost. When they walked out of the research building, Ron had just walked to the door. The Baroness turned around and took a look at herself, the Adine secret base that she had built with great difficulty, and was reluctant to press the detonation button in her hand. Boom! The remote-controlled bombs installed in various parts of the building were detonated together. When Ron was about to step into the building, he suddenly felt a chill in his heart and took a step back. Just at this moment, there was an explosion in the building, and the whole building collapsed. Ron ran away. Fortunately, the building collapsed straight up and down, not towards Ron, otherwise he would have been crushed inside. Huh? These grandsons of Adine are so treacherous, so they have all escaped from this building, right? Ron looked at the lifeless ruins and asked the machine helplessly. Yes, all the staff in this building have evacuated 2 minutes ago, and there are no human biological signs in the building. No human biological signs? Then where did they take Sheldon? Knowing that he might have made a wasted trip, Ron could no longer control his anger, and a strong murderous intent emanated from him. There behind you, the mechanical voice in the phone said coldly. Ron turned around and saw Sheldon and others running towards him in a dusty state. Ron, you finally came to save us. Wait, you are not a fake again? How can you prove that you are the real Ron? As soon as the second Sheldon rushed to Ron, his excited expression immediately switched to a state of suspicion. Tisk tisk tisk, my stupid brother, are you so stupid that you don't even recognize your own brother? Or do you want me to hit you on the head so that you can regain the familiarity of childhood? Ron threatened as usual. She thought Sheldon would lose his temper like usual, but unexpectedly, he was hugged by Sheldon. Great, this is it. You are the real Ron, Sheldon cried with joy. This was the first time he took the initiative to hug Ron. Ron widened his eyes in surprise. Leonard, what's wrong with this guy? It's okay, you just need to adapt. She has a little emotional breakdown recently. Can you take us home? Of course, but I'm afraid you will have to wait a little while. Ron pushed Sheldon away and agreed casually. He didn't want Sheldon to make him covered with tears and snot. Did you drive here? Howard asked curiously. Oh, by the way, you are flying a plane, so how should we go back? Of course, fly back again, Ron said, and there was a sound of propeller rotors rubbing against the air in the distance. Everyone turned around and saw a helicopter flying towards them. Let's go home. By the way, tell me about Sheldon's recent depression. What happened this time? Is it because the shape of his breakfast cereal is irregular, or is it because of the irregular water stains on your mirror that made him crazy? Neither. This time it's because, as Leonard talked non-stop along the way, Ron finally understood the reason why Sheldon was crazy this time. In short, the super asymmetry theory he discovered at his and Amy's wedding was very likely to win the Nobel Prize. Everyone knows how much Sheldon desires the Nobel Prize. A chance to win the Nobel Prize is enough to make Sheldon ecstatic, but unfortunately, when they were checking the paper for plagiarism, they found a paper that discovered a theory similar to theirs. This paper proved through rigorous argumentation that this theory has no future, but is a dead end. Seeing his chance of winning the Nobel Prize go down the drain, Sheldon was in a bad mood, so when the fake Ron invited Sheldon to the amusement park, he agreed almost without hesitation. So you didn't try giving him a hot drink? In this case, giving him a cup of tea would probably be better. Ron said this while sending Sheldon to take a shower when they returned to Leonard's room in the apartment. Of course I tried, but Sheldon re-examined tea after he got depressed and thought it was just a leaf soup and had no comforting effect. This is indeed a bit difficult to deal with. Ron nodded in approval. Once Sheldon got stuck in a dead end, he was no different from a mental patient. Amy came to us last night. She was worried about when Sheldon would re-examine her. So do you have any other ideas? Ron, at least you can make him calm down a little bit, Leonard said helplessly. If this continued, even he was going crazy. You know Sheldon. Unless he figures it out himself, no one else can. Ron was halfway through his words when a light bulb suddenly flashed in his head. Wait, maybe there's someone who can persuade Sheldon, the only person in the world whose opinion Sheldon will respect. You mean Stephen Hawking, Leonard guessed. No, I'm talking about himself. When he was a kid, he once showed his future self a video of a conversation in which he encouraged himself. Ron walked to the wall of the apartment and lifted the mural used for decoration. A small safe was revealed behind it. Oh my God, I've lived here for so long, and I didn't even know there was a safe on this wall. Leonard opened his mouth in surprise. This is normal, just like Sheldon has lived next door for so long and didn't find out that I installed a remote-controlled bomb in the house. If someone comes to cause trouble, in the worst case, I can take them all to death. What? You also installed a bomb in the house? Leonard screamed in a more shocked voice than before. At this moment, Hilton, who had just finished taking a shower, pushed the door open and said, What bomb? We are talking about a bomb that just blew up the scientific research building. It's really powerful, right, Leonard? Ron stole a warning look at Leonard, and Leonard could only nod. This topic is not important, Sheldon. I think you need some comfort right now. Ron took out a videotape from the safe and handed it to Sheldon. Do you remember this? You gave it to me and asked me to show it to you when you were at your lowest. I think it's time to use it now. Oh, it's this. Sheldon's mood obviously improved a little when he saw the videotape. I originally wanted to save it for the day when the Star Wars movie series no longer has sequels, but looking at the current momentum, that day probably won't come, so it probably won't work. Come on, a successful IP like Star Wars, as long as people still watch it, the company will definitely continue to make it indefinitely. Leonard, take out a VCR, Ron shouted, and the two began to fiddle with the VCR together. How long have you not seen this thing? I haven't seen it since I recorded it. I had just finished watching the movie, Back to the Future Part 2, and then I thought, maybe one day I will need my own help, so I recorded this, Sheldon said nostalgically. Okay, it's done. Let's start. Leonard pressed the play button, and the videotape started playing. A cute little boy appeared on the TV screen. Oh my God, Sheldon, look how cute you were when you were a kid. Leonard was shocked by Sheldon's appearance when he was a kid. That's nothing. You haven't seen him wearing women's clothes when he was a kid. He was even cuter than a real girl. Before Ron finished speaking, Sheldon interrupted him. Hey, can we watch the video properly? Okay, let's watch the video together. Ron wanted to scold Sheldon, but considering her poor mental state, he thought better of it. He looked at Leonard, and the two sat next to Sheldon. Sheldon then pressed the button to continue playing with satisfaction. Hello, Sheldon, the little Sheldon on TV said seriously. If you are playing the video, I guess you must have encountered something terrible, extremely unlucky, and unexpected, and even made you begin to doubt your life. Now I want to confirm that it is you who is watching this video, not a liar who pretends to be you. What am I thinking about now? Count to 3 and say it. 1, 2, 3, Robot Monkey Butler. The last voice was said by the little Sheldon on TV and the big Sheldon next to Ron. Ron never thought of it. This video actually has an interactive function. So should we leave you two alone for a while? Ron asked jokingly. It's not very educational. I think you should watch it, Sheldon said complacently. However, while she was talking, the little Sheldon on the TV twisted and disappeared, and the picture turned into a video of a football game. What's going on? What's wrong? Don't, Sheldon shouted uncomfortably. I guess my dad is using your videotape to record his team's game. Ron identified the players on the tape and immediately recognized that this was the team his father had coached and the team he had played for. "Look, I'm also on the tape," the quarterback standing in the middle. Chapter 616 Nobel Prize. He actually used this tape to record the high school idiot football game. Sheldon was mad. "I have to remind you, when you say idiot football game, you need to pay attention in advance that your two brothers are still on the field." Ron couldn't help but clench his fists. "I think you are etching again." Sheldon is still asking for a beating as usual. Wait, Ron. We are not here to beat Sheldon today. We are here to help him get over his knot. Sheldon, is there anything else we can do for you? Leonard quickly inserted himself between the two people who were at loggerheads to smooth things over. If it weren't for him, Sheldon would have to be beaten by Ron again today, but for Leonard's sake, this beating was temporarily recorded. Of course you can. You build a time machine and let me go back in time to persuade the young me to give up physics as soon as possible. Because nothing in the world will go his way, Sheldon slammed the door and left angrily, leaving Leonard standing there at a loss. Ron looked at her embarrassed look with amusement. "I told you a long time ago that he really deserves a beating. What do you think? Do you regret helping him? If I had known, you should have joined me in pinning Sheldon down and giving him a good beating. There will be a chance. Sheldon promised me that when he wins the Nobel Prize, I will slap him in the face myself to tell him whether he is dreaming or not. Even for this opportunity, we have to do something. We can't let Sheldon be depressed like this," Leonard said with burning eyes. "He has waited too long for this opportunity and he absolutely cannot fail at this critical moment. He still believes that Sheldon's theory can help him win the Nobel Prize." "I like this reason." Ron rolled his eyes and immediately had an idea. "Depression? This should be a psychological problem, right? I remember your mother is one of the greatest psychologists in the world. Why don't we call her and ask her?" Leonard was a little confused by Ron's suggestion. Under normal circumstances, she was reluctant to contact her indifferent mother, but after thinking about it for a while, especially the condition that Sheldon's slap could be legally deleted, it was too tempting. Finally, she gritted her teeth, stomped her feet, and called her mother. Beep, beep. The phone rang once and was immediately connected. "Leonard, what do you want to bother me with again?" After a simple greeting, Leonard's mother asked impatiently. Ron was bothering Leonard, and Leonard reluctantly asked, "I have some psychological problems, and I need your professional advice. I'd love to help you, dear, but I'm very busy now. Maybe we can make an appointment for next week." As soon as Leonard's mother opened her mouth, Leonard knew what he was going to say, and rolled his eyes at Ron helplessly, as if to say, "See, I knew it would be like this." But Ron didn't have time to deal with Leonard's complaints. Before Leonard's mother had time to hang up the phone, I quickly interrupted her and said, "Ms. Beverly, we are not going to talk about Leonard's problems, but my brother Sheldon's." "Sheldon? Then I think I can spare a few minutes." Hearing that it was about Sheldon, Beverly said happily with her eyes closed. As we all know, probably because of their compatibility, Leonard's mother has always been very partial to Sheldon, and her attitude towards Sheldon is hundreds of times better than that towards Leonard, her own son. Leonard shouted angrily, "Wait, didn't you just say you were busy? Come on, Leonard, not everything has to revolve around you." Beverly glared at his son, turned to look at Ron, and changed his expression to be kind again. "You are Sheldon's brother, right? What's going on with Sheldon?" "Thank you, Beverly. Ever since his thesis was overturned, he has been depressed and the whole person seems to be useless. If there is a cow like this in the ranch of my hometown, we will definitely slaughter and eat it, but unfortunately there is no way to treat Sheldon like this, so what should we do for him? It sounds like he should be in some kind of sad emotion. Maybe it would be better to let her vent." Beverly thought for a while and said, "Maybe you can." 10 minutes later, Ron and Leonard came to Sheldon's bedroom door again. "Sheldon, I think we have found a way to comfort you." "Impossible. The only video that can comfort me has been washed away by my dad's idiotic football game." Sheldon's voice came from the bedroom, and Ron clenched his fists again in anger. "Calm down, Ron, calm down. You know Sheldon is always like this." Seeing Ron getting so angry at Sheldon, Leonard felt a little relieved. "At worst, we can comfort him and then deal with him. I am willing to give you the second slap when I receive the Nobel Prize invitation. Deal?" "It's settled." Ron high-fived Leonard and continued to shout towards the bedroom, "Sheldon, you have to let us try some other methods." Leonard followed and said, "How about we hold a farewell ceremony for your thesis together? Like holding a funeral for your thesis?" "That sounds stupid," Sheldon said in a tone that deserved a beating. But my mother said this method might work. Before Leonard finished speaking, Sheldon's bedroom was suddenly opened. Then maybe this method really works. Leonard couldn't help but feel angry. So you thought this was my method, so you didn't believe it. You actually thought so, really? Sheldon spread his hands. Come on, Leonard, not everyone has to revolve around you. Ron was amused by his words. Beverly had just said this. The two of them were simply in sync. If Texas was not too far away from Leonard's hometown, near New York, he even suspected that the two were born in the same hospital and then taken away by mistake. Sheldon should be Beverly's child, and Leonard should be his stupid brother. Hurry up, I can't wait. What way should we use to say goodbye to my thesis? How about the pirate way? Sheldon went from having no interest to being eager to try, and the transition took less than a minute. Are you saying to put the body on the boat and then shoot it with a bow soaked in oil? Ron thought for a moment and doubted. Let's not talk about whether you can hit the boat. First of all, can you pull the bow? This Sheldon and Leonard stared at each other. With their arm strength, it is estimated that even a child's bow is not enough. Well, then I suggest you put a tub of water in the bathtub, take a metal container to put the paper and light it, so as not to go out and embarrass yourself. Ron imagined Sheldon and Leonard shooting arrows at a boat that was drifting farther and farther away in the park with a child's bow, and couldn't help but smile. This is a good idea, and you don't have to go out. It's really great. I'll go prepare it now. Sheldon ran to the storage room excitedly, but Ron walked out the door. Leonard couldn't help but call him strangely. Aren't you coming with us, Ron? Of course not. Just be careful and don't set the house on fire. I have something else to do. Ron waved his hand and left the room without looking back. Although Ron wanted to watch Sheldon and Leonard's farce, he couldn't stay because he had more important things to do. After leaving the apartment, Ron drove directly to his house next to Claire's. When he arrived, there was a noisy noise in the house. Someone had entered the house before him and was having a party inside. Ron didn't mind, but smiled and opened the door. The first thing that caught his eye was Toretto's big bald head that was full of presents, and then the family members around him, and the underworld forces led by Ron, led by Deckard Shaw, who were confronting them on the sofa opposite. The people on Toretto's side were okay, but the people on Deckard Shaw's side were more mixed. His two younger brothers and sisters, Ron's younger brother who was an accountant who was good at using sniper rifles, and two bald men who looked very similar to Deckard Shaw that Ron found from nowhere. Although they were not familiar with each other, after seeing each other's hairstyles, they unexpectedly had a little more affection for each other, and then naturally stood together. Ron looked at everyone with a sense of accomplishment. Each of these people was an elite. If they were brought together, it would not be impossible to overthrow a small country. However, these people with special skills were all unruly and left their original places for various reasons. Unexpectedly, they gathered here today because of Ron's invitation. Ron felt deeply honored. Good evening, guys. Good evening, Ron. Seeing Ron coming in, both sides put aside their prejudices and greeted Ron in unison. No matter how much they disliked each other, at least they were full of respect for Ron. Last time you asked me to work with Hobbs, the Chicken Club hammer, and it was fine. Why did you arrange for me to work with this big fool this time? How much do you dislike me? And you keep arranging me to work with these annoying guys. As soon as he saw Ron, Deckard Shaw complained incessantly. Correspondingly, you didn't thank me for finding you two long-lost brothers, so we are even. Ron lightly punched Deckard Shaw in the chest, making him grimace in pain, but Ron waved to the other two men who looked similar to her as if he didn't see them. This is Joey, a former British Special Forces soldier, and Brock, a former FBI agent. To be honest, when the three of you stand together, I almost can't tell who is who. We're not here to listen to you introduce your friends to us. Toretto walked out from his family, interrupted Ron's teasing, and said in a buzzing voice, I can see that the people you called are all people with special skills, so is there any big trouble this time? You are my family, Ron, and I will definitely help my family if they have any problems. Ron has always been loyal to Toretto, and correspondingly, Toretto also regards Ron as a real family member. Don't worry, I'll tell you right away why I gathered you together. Ron led everyone back to their seats and picked up a bottle of beer. Guys, you may not know every friend here, but at least you all know me and are willing to trust me, right? Of course, we are family. Your business is my business. Everyone shouted and agreed, and Ron pressed his hands together. Everyone immediately quieted down and listened quietly to what Ron was going to say next. Because you are willing to believe me, I specially gathered you together today to tell you a shocking secret. That is, our world is in danger." Ron's face became serious. "There is an organization called ADIN, which has existed in the world for thousands of years. All of you should have come into contact with or heard of it. Of course, you may not have heard this name. Sometimes it is called the Syndicate, sometimes it is called the Skull and Bones Society, or it is called Cobra." Hearing Ron list the former names of this organization, or the names of its branches, every elite present changed their faces. Indeed, as Ron said, they had more or less dealt with this organization. But they once naively thought that what they were facing was the entire organization, but they didn't know that it was just a thin branch on a big tree. Putting together the enemies they met, they were surprised to find that it was actually an extremely huge behemoth. In short, this is a group of terrorists with anti-human tendencies. They have stolen nuclear bombs to try to start a war. They have assassinated heads of state in London to try to plunge the world into chaos. They have even developed viruses to eliminate most of the world's human population. They have never stopped destroying the world, and they are different from the little characters we usually meet. They even have their own independent scientific research team, and master a lot of super technologies that even countries have never mastered. Ron pressed the remote control, and the TV screen appeared with the photos of the robots that he had seen in the Westworld amusement park before. From the face, they are real people, but the mechanical structure exposed under the human skin reveals the truth that they are robots. Everyone couldn't help but exclaimed, "Isn't this too scary? If their simulation level can be so high, then they can easily create simulations that are exactly the same as us and mix in with us, or go out to do evil in our name." Roman stood up and said worriedly. Chapter 617 Special Forces Established. Yes, they did. Not long ago, they built a robot that looked exactly like me, and kidnapped my brother and a few friends. They wanted to kill me because I had ruined their plans to destroy the world many times. Similarly, they wanted to kill you because I had helped ruin their plans before. Ron's words shocked everyone. Even Toretto, who wanted to take his family back to the mountains, couldn't help but feel a little more worried. Everyone knew that the lips and teeth would be cold. It wasn't just Ron who had ruined Adin's actions before. All of them had participated in some way. After Adin killed Ron, the next target would be everyone present. "So you brought us together today to form an organization to protect each other and each other's families, right?" Deckard Shaw asked, raising his hand. While speaking, he glared at Toretto meaningfully. Although he had some personal grudges with the group over there, he was willing to cooperate with them if it was to protect his family. But Ron did not agree but shook his head. "A thief can steal for 1,000 days, but you can't guard against thieves for 1,000 days. We are all professionals and should understand that even if we formulate a thorough protection plan, we can't guarantee that it is absolutely foolproof. There will always be opportunities for the other party to take advantage of for various reasons. Then what do you say we should do? Are we just going to watch them kill us one by one?" "Of course not." Ron shook his head again. One of the great Oriental men I admire most once said, "Strike one punch to avoid 100 punches." Ron felt something was wrong after he said this. When he said this, the great man was fighting the American Devils, and his identity with a group of people in front of him was the American Devils. This was like fighting himself, which seemed a bit bad. Fortunately, most of these people were semi-illiterate from happy education, and no one remembered the background of this sentence. There were even a few people cheering. Ron wiped his sweat and continued, "My plan is that we also set up an organization to confront them. If one day we can completely defeat them, naturally no one in this world can threaten our safety anymore." Well said. Defeat them. Ron's speech caused this group of grassroots men to cheer continuously, but Toretto still frowned. "I have a question. You just said that the other party is a large organization that has been established for 1,000 years. What can we use to fight them? What's more, they have advanced technology, sufficient funds and intelligence networks all over the world." "Don't worry," Ron waved his hand confidently. "This is what I want to tell you today. I now own the tax rights of the entire Los Angeles, a large number of Apple, Tesla and other company stocks. These stocks can bring me considerable profits every year, and I also know a group of very lovely scientists. They will continue to use their patents to help us make money and make more advanced weapons for us. All of my resources will eventually be gathered here to build a new base that will guide the world towards light, and you will be the first group of people to move into the space with me." A photo of the Sahara Desert was projected on the TV screen. Roman was horrified when he saw this. "Dude, Are you crazy? You actually want to build a base in the desert? Do you know how much it will cost? Of course I know. But I know even more that the benefits of building a base here are far greater than anywhere else. It's secretive enough, and if the construction workers can also complete the initial construction of the base in a very secretive manner, then we will solve all the troubles that may be discovered once and for all. Really? You want us to go to the desert and dig an underground base for you? Roman's expression became even more exaggerated. How do you plan to have us dig? Give each of us a shovel? Those who work faster will be rewarded with a watermelon and those who work slower will be whipped. In this case, I might as well grow cotton on the plantation like my ancestors. If you want to go, of course you can. I won't stop you. Ron looked at Roman with disdain. But my plan is to let you wear this and do this job. Ron clicked on his phone, and the table in the living room suddenly split into a big hole in the middle. The human exoskeleton armor that Ron had worn several times was sent up by the lift. Although some of them had seen this armor, they couldn't help but admire the greatness of technology when they saw it again. Some of you should have seen this thing, but I want to tell you that this is a big improvement over the previous temporary version. It has been equipped with a nuclear power battery pack, which can almost achieve unlimited battery life. It only takes a dozen people to dig a space that can accommodate hundreds of people under the desert. So the purpose of gathering everyone together today is to ask, what are you willing to do with me? Ron's voice fell, and the room fell into a strange silence. Seeing this reaction, Ron couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Sure enough, my speech skills were too poor, and I still couldn't convince these heroes. This matter requires a mutual consent, and it can't be forced. Ron's original plan was to recruit these grassroots heroes as the first batch of members to form a preliminary combat force, and then invite his former friends, and finally, merge his special operations team into it. However, if the first step was not successful, then there was no way to talk about the latter. Well, since you don't want to join, then you should just pretend that you have never been here today. Remember to keep my word secret. I'll join. Ron was interrupted by Toretto raising his hand before he finished speaking. A hint of joy flashed in Ron's eyes. Before he could say anything, the second and third arms were raised. I'll join too, and me, how can I be left out of such a thing as kicking ass? Ron counted the last time, and everyone raised their hands. From now on, you are our new boss. Should I call you boss? When are we leaving for the Sahara? I can't wait. Roman came over and gave Ron a long, playful smile. We'll leave now, and there, we'll work while waiting for more friends to arrive, Ron said decisively. Soon the party turned into a farewell banquet, not to say goodbye to one of their friends, but to say goodbye to the city of Los Angeles. After the party, the sports cars at the door roared and lined up in a column, first driving around Los Angeles, and finally heading to the airport. Ron had already arranged a plane to wait for them there. Those mechas would be sent to the port closest to his base by a smuggling ship arranged by Yuri. The number of mechas was much larger than the number of Ron and his group, because before boarding the plane, Ron had a group send a text message. At this moment, the phones of Ron's friends who were living in seclusion around the world rang at the same time. Sorry, baby, I can't take you to school today. I have something to do and need to go out, Hobbs shouted to his daughter in the house after reading the text message. What? You have work again? The daughter frowned impatiently. Not this time. Hobbs's big hand fell on his daughter's head and rubbed it gently. Remember that very handsome Uncle Ron? He finally decided to start doing what he told me before, so I'm going to help him. By the way, would you like to go to the desert to play during the winter and summer vacations? The Sahara Desert is the largest desert in the world. In the CIA headquarters, Ethan stopped the training plan he had originally planned after reading the information, turned around and walked into the office of the director of the Central Youth Bureau, holding a sloppy resignation letter in his hand. Judging from the yellowing paper, it was unknown how long this letter had been written. There was no fanfare, no guests, but this organization that would shock the world in the future was officially established today, making this day a legendary day in the future. While Ron was digging sands in the desert with his men, Sheldon was not idle either. The videotape that he recorded as a child to cheer up his future self finally played a role. Of course, it was not the childhood Hilton that played a role, but the impression of the second half that was washed out by old Joe and recorded as a football game. Inspired, Sheldon enriched the original incomplete theory again and published it in a journal. This time, she finally got what she wanted and was nominated for the Nobel Prize. Snoring Sheldon, who had been chattering on the sofa, became quieter and quieter. When Amy turned around to get her a cup of coffee to refresh herself, Sheldon had fallen asleep. Oh my God, Sheldon actually fell asleep at this time. Did he say that he would not go to bed until he received a call from the Nobel Prize Committee? Do we need to wake him up? Penny looked at Sheldon on the sofa, remembered his instructions before he fell asleep, and said hesitantly. Leonard nodded. He did say that if he fell asleep, we have the right to slap him awake. Oh my God, this is so exciting. Penny was about to slap Sheldon awake, but was held back by Leonard. Wait. Why are you the one to slap him? Penny said as a matter of course, because I said it first, so of course I should do it first. Being the first to say it means nothing. This right depends on qualifications. So are you qualified? Of course, no one in the world is more qualified than me, Leonard almost roared excitedly. Being ignored, Amy inserted herself between the two of them and asked unhappily, then what am I? Come on, you are his wife, and you have a lifetime to slap him. This is my chance. Leonard still refused to give in. Amy thought about it and nodded in agreement. Leonard excitedly stood in front of Sheldon, posed, and was about to slap Sheldon awake when Penny stopped him again. Wait a minute, I'll get the camera. You don't want such a wonderful scene without a photo to record it, do you? Of course, of course. Hurry up, I'm ready. Remember to shoot in slow motion, I want to see the ripples on her cheeks. When Penny came back with the camera, Leonard quickly posed again and explained. Get ready, go. Penny had just finished her words when the phone on the table suddenly rang. Sheldon suddenly opened his eyes and jumped up. Leonard quickly retracted his hand that was halfway fanned. Yes, I'm Dr. Cooper. What's up? Okay, I got it. Thank you and goodbye. Hilton picked up the phone, spoke for a while with a calm expression, and then hung up. We won the prize. Congratulations. Oh my God. You really did it, Sheldon. You got the Nobel Prize. Everyone cheered, jumping and jumping. Only Sheldon was still standing there with a blank face. Amy asked with concern, what's wrong? Sheldon, you don't look too happy. We really succeeded. Can you believe this is true? Sheldon muttered as if he had lost his soul. What if I'm dreaming? Good question. I have a way. What pa? Before Sheldon could say a word, Leonard suddenly raised his hand and slapped him hard, with such force that Sheldon flew directly to the sofa. What do you think? Do you still think you're dreaming? We won the Nobel Prize. Sheldon stood up, covering his face, and cheered even louder than the three before him. The Sahara Desert Special Forces secret base, with the help of the Metro and the building materials brought by Yuri on a smuggling ship, the construction speed of the base was extremely fast. In just 3 weeks, the underground living space had been installed, and now they finally didn't have to live in tents overnight. As we all know, the temperature difference between day and night in the desert is very large. During the day, people are so hot that they want to get into the refrigerator, but at night, people who can still move need to warm themselves by the fire. However, there are no trees in the desert, so Ron and his team can only use the energy in the Metro for heating. I remember that today seems to be the day of the Nobel Prize ceremony. Hobbs came over and put a bottle of beer on Ron's ground. Why are you still paying attention to academic things? Can't you, a big guy, lift a gun? Are you ready to start scientific research? Don't be kidding, you can't even recite the periodic table. When he gets the chance, Deckard Shaw will never forget to mock Hobbs. Everyone laughed. But this time, Hobbs did not choose to argue with him. I'm talking about your brother, Sheldon. Did he win the Nobel Prize in physics? Don't you want to watch his award ceremony? It doesn't matter, but since you mentioned it, let's turn it on and watch it, Ron said hypocritically. Turning on the satellite TV, the award ceremony has ended, and it is Sheldon's turn to give his acceptance speech. Originally, I prepared a long and somewhat self-centered speech, but I decided not to read it, because this honor does not belong to me alone. I have the honor of standing here at this moment, thanks to some very important people in my life. First of all, my family, father, mother, grandmother, brother and sister, especially my brother Ron, who has protected me since I was a child. Ron's eyes were unconsciously moist. Ron, what's wrong with you? Are you crying? Haha. Roman approached him tactlessly and ridiculed him loudly. How is that possible? The desert is too windy and the sand is too strong. I was just blinded. Ron stood up and said, guys, have you rested enough? Let's keep working and try to get the base out as soon as possible. Kill Adine and his gang of bastards. Kill them. Everyone raised their bottles and cheered. From today on, No matter who wants to destroy the world, we will fight for freedom, go through fire and water, and uphold justice. Ron finished his oath and drank the beer. A justice organization that can compete with Dean was finally established. The end of the book. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.